Observe the reality that surrounds you. Look at your financial circumstances, your health, your relationships. Touch them with your mind. How do they feel? For the vast majority, reality feels hard. It feels cold. It feels like solid, unmoving granite. You have been taught that the world is a fixed place, a labyrinth of stone walls against which you must crash over and over. You have been told that your destiny is to adapt to that hardness, to survive in the cracks. But that solidity is the most persistent illusion of existence. This audiobook has come to you to hand you the key to forbidden metaphysics. And the first law of this hidden science is this: reality is not stone. It is wax. What you perceive as immutable facts, your scarcity, your loneliness, your diagnosis, are not eternal structures. They are simply old impressions on wax that has cooled. The material world is an infinitely malleable substance, passive and obedient. It has no form of its own. It only takes the form of that which presses upon it with authority. If your life has the form of suffering, it is not because the universe is cruel. It is because at some point a seal of suffering was pressed against the soft wax of your existence, and you allowed it to cool and harden. Perhaps it was the beliefs of your parents, the fears of your culture, or your own unconscious self-image. You have been living trapped within the mark of someone else's seal. But the owner of the seal is you. This manual is not for learning how to survive in the hard wax. It is for learning how to melt it. You will learn that emotion is not a reaction, but the fire necessary to return reality to its liquid state. And you will learn that your identity is not an accident, but the sealing ring you wear on your invisible hand. When you forge a new seal of gold in your mind and press it with the heat of your will onto the wax of the world, reality has no choice. It must yield. It must take the new form. The wax is waiting. The fire is lit. It is time to forge your mark. Chapter 1. The Eternal Malleability, the Law of Substance. You look at your bank account and see a red number. You look at your body and see a diagnosis. You look at your history and see a chain of failures. Your senses touch these facts and send you an immediate report. This is solid. This is real. This is heavy. This cannot be moved. You live under the tyranny of solidity. You believe the world is a granite structure and that you are a small chisel trying to scratch the surface. You believe reality is resistant, stubborn, and hard. The first law of the Seal of Kings destroys this perception. The law states, the substance of the universe is virgin wax. It is eternally malleable, infinitely passive, and aggressively obedient. To operate this law, you must understand what your world is made of. It is not made of objects, it is made of primordial substance. Quantum physics calls it the unified field. The ancients called it ether or akasha. We will call it, for its mechanical function, the universal wax. This wax has a unique property. It has no form of its own. It does not want to be a chair or a tree or a mountain or a debt or a fortune. In its natural state, it is pure potentiality. It is invisible, fluid, and waiting. Why then do you hit yourself against walls? Why does poverty feel so hard? Because the wax has a second property, cooling. What your eyes see as solid reality is not the nature of the substance, it is simply cooled wax. Your current situation is an old impression that has solidified. The money you lack today is the result of a seal of scarcity you pressed, or accepted to be pressed, onto the wax months or years ago. The wax cooled into that absence form. Illness is wax cooled into the shape of a distorted cellular pattern. The fatal error of the average human is to confuse the current state, cold wax, with the nature of the substance, malleable wax. You treat ice as if it were diamond, and because you believe it is diamond, you do not try to melt it. You surrender to it. The moment you understand that your most solid problem is simply frozen energy awaiting a new source of heat, you reclaim your power. Here we enter the psychology of matter. The universe is not against you. The universe doesn't even know you. The wax is impersonal. It does not care whether it takes the form of a palace or a prison. To the wax, both are simply forms. It has no moral preference. It does not judge. It does not say, "Poor man, let's not give him more suffering." The wax is aggressively passive. This means its only desire, its only physical function, is to be impressed. It yearns for form. If you do not give it a deliberate form, it will take any form floating in the environment. If you do not press your own seal upon it, the wax does not remain formless. It will accept the impression of the collective seals, the economy, the news, the fear of your neighbors, the inheritance of your parents. Your chaotic life is not a punishment from God. It is the physical consequence of having left the wax of your existence exposed to the seals of strangers. It is a deficit of authority, not of destiny. The initiate in the mysteries of the seal stops respecting reality. When they look at a difficult circumstance, they do not say, "This is an unmovable fact." They say, "This is a temporary impression on a substance that obeys me." They see the world not as a maze of walls, but as an ocean of soft clay or warm wax. They know that the current form is maintained only by inertia, cold, and they know that, if they apply the correct energy, they can erase the old impression and stamp a new one. Your freedom begins when you stop reacting to the hardness of the world and start focusing on the malleability of the substance. Nothing is fixed, nothing is finished. Everything is, in this precise instant, waiting for your mark. The universe is virgin wax. It is passive, it desires to be impressed. It has no will of its own to oppose you. However, you look at your life and do not see soft wax. You see steel walls. You see debts that seem engraved in granite. You see illnesses that doctors call chronic and incurable. You see patterns of loneliness that seem to have the solidity of a mountain. If the substance is malleable, why is your experience so brutally rigid? If the universe desires to be molded, why does it resist your attempts at change with such violence? The answer is not in the substance. The answer is in the phase. Wax is malleable, yes, but only under one specific condition. It must be in a liquid or semi-liquid state. Cold wax is brittle. Cold wax is hard. Cold wax rejects the seal. Your problem is not that you lack the power, the ring. Your problem is that you are trying to stamp your will upon a reality that has cooled. And by doing so, you commit the error of the blind sculptor. You try to use brute force to modify the form, when what is required is a change in temperature. The thermodynamics of destiny, the cooling of reality. To master the art of the seal, you must first understand the solidification process. How is it that the virgin wax, fluid and potential, turns into the prison of your current circumstances? The culprit is time and habit. When an impression, a belief, a fear, a trauma is introduced into the wax of your subconscious mind, it is initially hot and alive. It is a fresh emotion. But if that impression is left there, untouched, untransmuted, it begins to undergo a process of thermal cooling. Energy stops moving. The vibration slows down. The molecular structure of reality settles. A couple's argument today is hot wax. It is easy to fix. A 10-year resentment is frozen wax. It has become a character trait, a solid truth. A temporary financial scarcity is soft wax. A poverty identity sustained for generations is solid rock. What you call the reality or the facts are not universal truths. They are simply old impressions that have lost their heat. They are fossils of past emotions. And here is the tragedy of the human condition. The immense majority of people spend their lives interacting with fossils. They try to change their lives by manipulating the cold forms of yesterday. They wake up in the morning and attack their problems with logical tools, with mental plans, with worries. But logic is a cold tool. Analytical thought has no heat. When you attack a solidified problem, cold wax, with a logical thought, cold tool, one of two things happens. The tool breaks. You become exhausted, your will breaks, you fall into depression or burnout. The wax breaks. You create a forced change, but it is a destructive change. You break the structure, but you do not create a new form. You only create debris. The fallacy of the chisel, intellectual effort. We must pause here to dismantle the illusion of mental hard work. You have been taught that to solve a problem, you must think about it, analyze it, dissect its parts. From the perspective of the metaphysics of the seal, this is madness. Analyzing a problem is cooling it further. Cold attention, attention based on worry and analysis, acts like a freezer. It fixes the form. The more you look at the problem with realism, the more you are confirming its solidity. You are telling the wax, you are hard, you are unmovable, you are real. And the wax, obedient to your decree, hardens even more. The intellectual is often the worst magician, because their mind is trained to respect the facts, and facts are cold wax. The intellectual takes their chisel of logic and strikes reality. According to statistics, I cannot heal. Strike. According to the economy, I cannot become rich. Strike. According to my past, I cannot change. Strike. Every strike reaffirms the hardness of the material. The chisel bounces back, and the intellectual concludes, it's impossible. Reality is stronger than me. They do not understand that it is not a question of force. It is a question of the state of matter. They are trying to drink water by biting a block of ice. The state of liquefaction, the chaos before order. If cold reality rejects the seal, what is the solution? The solution is to apply heat before applying form. You must return the wax to its original state, the liquid state. You must melt your current reality before you can imprint a new one. This is what the ancient alchemists called solutio or dissolution, and this is where the aspiring king often recoils in terror. Why? Because when the solid wax of your life begins to melt, it loses its form. Known structures collapse, certainties dissolve. To the ego, which loves security, even the security of a prison, the melting process feels like death and chaos. When you begin to apply the fire, which we will study in the next chapter, your life may seem to destabilize. Relationships that seemed solid end. Jobs that seemed secure disappear. Beliefs that gave you identity crumble. The novice screams, "It's going wrong, I'm losing control," and rushes to find ice to refreeze their life into the old form, because chaos terrifies them. The king knows the truth. They know that liquidity is necessary for the new imprint. They know that you cannot stamp the seal of wealth onto the hard wax of poverty. First, the form of poverty must melt into a formless mass of potential energy. Chaos is not an error. It is the state of transition. It is the wax becoming soft, ready to receive the new command. You must be prepared for thermal inertia. In physics, a cold object takes time to heat up. It does not happen instantly. When you begin to apply the new consciousness, physical reality, the wax, is still cold from years of habit. You might spend days or weeks applying the fire of your new vision without seeing external changes. The surface remains hard. This is the valley of death for the manifester. You look at the hard surface and say, "It's not working, it's still stone." But beneath the surface, the molecular temperature is rising. The vibration is accelerating. The rigid structure is weakening. If you persist, the melting point will arrive. Suddenly, what seemed unmovable yields. The wall collapses, the opportunity appears, the healing occurs. It was not a sudden miracle. It was the result of thermal accumulation. It was the moment the wax reached the critical temperature and shifted from solid to liquid. The king never judges the hardness of the wax. They only judge the intensity of their own fire. They know that if the fire is constant, fusion is inevitable. There is no material in the universe that can resist heat indefinitely. To master this law, you must develop a new way of seeing. You must stop seeing objects and situations and start seeing temporarily frozen energy. When you look at your zero bank account, do not see a fact. Say mentally, "This is cold wax. It is the impression of my past. It has no power of its own. If I apply heat, it will change." When you look at a medical diagnosis, do not see a sentence. Say, "This is a molecular structure frozen in an error pattern. It is malleable. It is wax." This vision gives you a psychological superiority over matter. Fear arises when you believe the monster is real and solid. Power arises when you realize the monster is a wax figure and you have a flamethrower. Matter is not your boss. Matter is your clay, it is your canvas, it is your wax. The only reason it has dominated you until now is because you have respected its coldness. You have accepted its rigidity as authority. Forbidden metaphysics demands that you lose respect for the current reality. Current reality is merely the residue of yesterday. It is not sacred, it is recyclable. To conclude this law of substance, we must touch upon the final mystery. The wax in its liquid hot state is void. It is not nothing, it is non-thing. It is pure potential. The king is not afraid of the void. The king loves the void, because they know that only in the void can they imprint their will without distortion. If you try to imprint your seal onto wax that already has a drawing, your old beliefs, the drawings overlap. You create confusion. Therefore, the first step of any great manifestation is the destruction of the previous form. You must be willing to let your old life melt. You must be willing to not know who you are for a moment. You must be willing to hold the space of liquid uncertainty. It is in that golden, shining, formless liquid where the seal of gold will leave its perfect mark. Chapter 2. The Heat of Fusion, the Law of Emotion. Here is where most aspiring kings abandon the throne. They try to use positive thinking. They sit and repeat logical phrases, I am rich, I am healthy. But they do it with an intellectual coldness, with a lukewarm hope. And the wax, cold and indifferent, laughs at them. A cold thought has no power of penetration. A lukewarm desire does not alter the molecular structure of events. The second law of the Seal of Kings is the law of spiritual thermodynamics. Form yields only to heat. Emotion is not a reaction to the world, it is the fire that melts it. You have been educated to fear the fire. Society, academia, and religion have taught you that emotion is a weakness. They have told you to be rational, cold, calculating. They have told you that control is the absence of feeling. This is the castration of the mage. Reason is the structure, yes, but emotion is the fuel. A king without passion is a ruler of a dead kingdom. A mage without fire is a useless academic. In forbidden metaphysics, emotion is redefined. It is not sentimentality. It is not drama. Emotion is energy in motion, emotion. It is the only force in the universe capable of raising the vibrational temperature of the wax to the melting point. If your life is stagnant, if your problems seem like unmovable blocks of ice, it is not because you don't understand the problem, it is because you lack heat. You are trying to mold iron with bare hands when you should be lighting the forge. Let's look at this through the lens of physics, not poetry. What happens when you apply heat to a solid? The molecules, which were fixed in a rigid structure, ice problem, begin to vibrate faster. Kinetic energy increases. The bonds that held them together weaken. A critical point is reached, the melting point, where the structure collapses and the solid turns into liquid. It becomes fluid. It adapts to any container. Your reality works exactly the same. A debt is a solid structure of lack. An illness is a solid cellular structure. If you look at them with indifference or resignation, cold, their molecules remain still. The debt persists. The illness becomes chronic. But if you inject a high-intensity emotion, a passion for wealth, a burning gratitude for life, or even a holy anger against limitation, you are raising the temperature. You are bombarding the reality structure with kinetic energy. If you maintain the fire long enough, the structure of debt or illness cannot hold up. The laws of spiritual physics force the situation to become fluid. Circumstances begin to move. Opportunities appear. Rigidity dissolves. Heat is the universal solvent. The failure of lukewarmness. The universe spits out the lukewarm. This ancient phrase is a technical law. Lukewarmness is ambient temperature. It is the state where the wax neither melts nor hardens. It simply stays there, useless and sticky. Most people live in lukewarmness. They want to be rich, but only a little. They have a preference, not a fire. They want to change, but they are lazy. They complain, but not enough to act. This lack of intensity is why their lives are grey and static. To stamp the seal, you need to reach white-hot intensity. You need a desire that burns. You need a conviction that boils. The king does not prefer to govern. They burn for their kingdom. We must make a critical safety distinction. Not all heat is useful. There is a kind of heat that does not melt the wax for molding, but burns it and turns it black and brittle. That heat is anxiety and desperation. Anxiety is heat, yes, it is high energy. But it is chaotic heat. It is a fire that consumes itself. It is smoke. When you try to change your reality from desperation, I need this or I will die, what? You are applying an erratic torch. The wax deforms, drips, gets dirty. The seal is not clear. The king's fire is different. It is white heat. It is intense, but it is stable. It is the fusion of intention, mind, and passion, heart. It is the state of burning certainty. I want it, I love it, it is mine, and my passion for it is as constant as the sun. This heat does not burn. It illuminates and softens. It prepares the wax perfectly to receive the sharp imprint of the seal. The first step to mastering the fire is to stop treating emotion as a weather condition that happens. Today I don't feel inspired. Today I feel dull. These are the phrases of a victim. In forbidden metaphysics, emotion is not weather, it is fuel. And you are the chemist in charge of refining it. Your body is a biological reactor designed to produce any emotional frequency at will. You have the glands, you have the nervous system, and you have the chemistry to generate ecstasy, power, gratitude, or love in the middle of a prison cell. Emotion is a secretion of consciousness. If you change the position of your consciousness, the secretion changes. The fundamental error is believing you need an external reason to feel fire. You don't need a reason, you need a decision. The fire does not ask, "Why should I burn?" It simply burns because that is its nature when the combustion conditions are met. Your job is to create those conditions internally, bypassing the coldness of your external environment. How do you light a fire when there is no external spark? In nature, it is done through friction. You rub two dry sticks until the latent heat turns into an active flame. In the mind, the process is identical. You must rub two thoughts, or a thought and a sensation, until the friction generates the emotional spark. The most immediate tool for ignition is your memory, but not memory used as a nostalgic photo album, but as an embers bank. We have all had moments of fire in the past, a moment of absolute triumph, a moment of ecstatic love, a moment of deep security. Those moments are not dead. They are logs still burning in the subconscious archive. The king does not visit the past to live there. They enter the cave of memory with an unlit torch, touch the fire of that ancient memory, light their torch, and quickly return to the present with the living fire. If you need to feel abundance to melt a debt, close your eyes. Search for the moment in your life where you felt richest, most secure, most provided for. Even if it was when you were 10 years old and had a new bill in your pocket. Steal the sensation. Don't stay with the story, stay with the thermal frequency of that moment. Bring that heat to the now. Apply it to your current situation. You are using a ghost log to ignite the present furnace. The body doesn't know the fire comes from the past, it just feels the heat now. And that heat is what melts the current wax. Sensory friction, tactical hallucination. If you do not have an adequate memory, you must use the friction of sensory imagination. The logical mind thinks of concepts, money. The primitive mind feels sensations, texture, weight, temperature. To light the fire, you must stop thinking and start feeling virtually. Imagine you have the sealing ring of your desire in your hand. Do not mentally look at it. That is passive. Rub it. In your mind, feel the texture of the gold. Feel the weight. Feel the temperature of the metal. Do it over and over. Intensify the tactile sensation. This intense concentration on an imaginary sensation creates neurological friction. Your brain starts firing neurons as if it were touching the real object. And from that friction, the heat arises. The emotion of reality arises. Suddenly you feel a shiver, a surge of excitement, a hit of gratitude. The spark has jumped. You have lit the fire from nothing, using only the friction of your focus. The alchemy of dirty fuel, transmuting pain. But what if the only thing you have on hand is dirty fuel? What if you are so full of fear, anger, or desperation that you cannot access happy memories or imagine beautiful things? What does the king do when surrounded by flammable trash? They burn it. This is one of the darkest and most powerful secrets of forbidden metaphysics. Negative energy, fear, anger, pain, is, in physics terms, high-octane fuel. Fear is an intense vibration. Anger is a consuming fire. The novice's mistake is trying to put out these emotions to seek a lukewarm peace. The alchemist master does not put out the fire of fear. They redirect it. If you have a debt that terrifies you, you have a massive amount of psychic energy, fear, available. Take that fear. Do not deny it. But change its polarity, as we will see later, but here we focus on the heat. Use the intensity of that fear to fuel the intensity of your determination. Convert, "I am afraid of being poor," into "I have a sacred fury to be rich." Convert, "The loneliness hurts me," into "I have a burning passion to find my soulmate." Use the trash as fuel. Throw your fear into the furnace, throw your anger into the furnace, let them burn. The resulting fire will be dirty at first. It will emit black smoke, but it will generate immense heat. And that heat is enough to melt the wax of your stagnant reality. Do not waste a crisis. A crisis is a free offer of unlimited fuel. Burn it all to forge your new life. Once you have lit the fire, either with the friction of imagination or by burning your own pain, you must learn to contain it. An open-air fire scatters its heat in the wind. It only warms what is millimeters away from it. To melt metals, or hard realities, you need a furnace. You need walls that trap the heat and raise the temperature and pressure. In the mind, the furnace is silence and secrecy. When you generate a powerful emotion of desire or gratitude, the ego's instinct is to express it. You want to run and tell someone, you want to jump, you want to spend the energy. This is opening the furnace door. The heat escapes, the wax cools down again. The king practices thermal containment. They feel the fire burning in their chest. They feel the emotion rising in their throat. But they close their mouth. They stay still. They force that energy to circulate inward. By not letting it escape, the pressure rises, the temperature rises, the vibration of their whole being elevates to an incandescent state. It is in this state of high pressure and high temperature where physical reality loses its coherence and is forced to melt and reform. If you talk about your plans, you lose the fire. If you complain about your problems, you lose the fire. You use it to heat the external air. If you contain your passion and your intention in the sacred silence of your interior, you become a nuclear reactor, and the radiation from that reactor is what changes the world without you having to lift a finger. Finally, we must talk about the quality of the flame. The novice's fire is red, crackling, full of smoke and sparks. It is emotional, erratic, hysterical. It rises and falls. This fire melts the wax unevenly. It creates deformities. The king's fire is blue or white. It is a fire that has reached such a temperature that it no longer flickers. It is silent. It is a column of pure, stable heat. This is the emotion of faith. Faith is not a cold thought. Faith is a passion that has become so intense and so sure of itself that it has transcended agitation. It is the state of burning knowing. You are not shouting with excitement. You are vibrating at a frequency of quiet power. This is the heat that allows the perfect imprint. When the wax melts under this white fire, it becomes as liquid as water, ready to capture even the most microscopic detail of your seal. Your job from today is not just to be the architect or the king, it is to be the fireman. You must monitor the temperature of your being. External reality is a constant cold wind. News, doubts, negative people. They are currents of icy air that try to enter your furnace and put out your fire. If you leave the door open, if you pay attention to the world without filters, your wax will cool and harden again into the old form of limitation. You must be jealous of your fire. You must feed it every morning with the friction of your vision. You must protect it during the day with the shield of your indifference to the negative, and you must stoke it at night with gratitude for what is to come. A life without fire is a life of hard wax, trapped in the form of the past. A life with fire is a life of eternal fluidity, where you can reshape your destiny as many times as you desire. Chapter 3. The Hardening, the Law of Time. To master time, you must stop fighting it and understand its physical function. Time is not a punishment from the gods. It is a property of density. Imagine two mediums, air and water. If you move your hand in the air, thought, the movement is instantaneous and without resistance. If you move your hand underwater, emotion, there is resistance, but it is fluid. If you try to move your hand inside fresh concrete, matter, the movement is slow, heavy, and requires sustained pressure. The physical plane is concrete. It is dense, its atoms are compacted. To reorder that density, energy requires a period of transition. This period is called lag, delay. When you apply your seal, your new identity, onto the liquid wax of quantum reality, the imprint is instantaneous at the subtle level. The mold is already made. But for that imprint to densify enough to be visible to your eyes and tangible to your hands, the energy must slow down. It must freeze. The time elapsed between your internal ritual and the external appearance is not empty time. It is densification time. It is the moment when subatomic particles are collapsing, coincidences are aligning, and matter is being pushed into the new mold. If you don't see immediate results, it doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means the concrete is setting. The error of the finger in the wax, the interference of doubt. What happens if you touch the wax while it is cooling? If you put your finger in to see if it's hard yet, you leave an imprint. You deform the image. You ruin the seal. This is exactly what you do when you doubt or when you anxiously seek results. Every time you look at your current reality desperately searching for a sign of change, you are sticking your finger in. You are introducing a vibration of agitation into a substance that needs stillness to crystallize. You have visualized wealth. The wax is cooling into the shape of wealth. But 2 hours later, you check your account in fear. It's not there yet. That fear is erratic heat. That check is a vibration of disturbance. The result, the wax melts again or it hardens with a deformed shape, a mixture of your desire and your fear. The law of hardening demands a brutal discipline. Do not touch the work. Once you have imprinted the seal, in your power session, you must have the discipline to withdraw your dirty hands, your logical doubt, from the equation. You must let reality cool into the new form without your constant interference. The king stamps the seal and then trusts the chemistry of the wax. They know that cooling is an automatic law. They don't need to watch the wax for it to harden. It will harden on its own if left alone. We live in the age of digital speed. We click and it happens. This has atrophied our ability to operate in deep reality. We have forgotten the cycles of agriculture and gestation. A pregnancy takes 9 months. You cannot speed it up by shouting at the womb. If you try to take it out early, you abort the life. A seed takes weeks to break the earth. If you dig it up on the 3rd day to see if it has roots, you kill it. Your manifestation is a pregnancy. It is a seed. The waiting time is not passive time. It is a time of frantic, invisible molecular activity. The universe is moving millions of pieces so that your desire fits into the fabric of reality. Your impatience is an insult to that complexity. Forbidden metaphysics teaches you to respect the interval. It teaches you to see time not as a delay, but as the inverse baking oven, the reality refrigerator. It is necessary. It is functional. If you want big things, you must be willing to endure longer cooling times. A castle takes longer to set than a shack. The test of faith, sustaining the seal. Here we come to the active part of cooling. Although you must not stick your finger in and doubt, you must sustain the seal. Imagine you are sealing a letter with wax. You pour the hot wax, you press the ring. What do you do next? Do you remove the ring immediately? No, the wax is liquid. If you remove the ring, the form will dissipate. Do you move the ring from side to side? No. The image will be blurry. What you do is maintain constant firm pressure until you feel the wax has hardened. Only then do you remove the ring. In mental reality, this means sustaining the state. During the time interval, while you don't see results, your job is to keep the pressure of your identity, the seal, firm and unmoving. Despite external reality shouting scarcity, you maintain the internal pressure of I am abundance. Despite time passing, you do not move the ring. You do not change your desire. You do not lower the intensity. You maintain the pressure of your faith until physical reality hardens beneath it. If you remove the pressure, you surrender. Before the wax cools, reality returns to its previous formless state. Failure is never that the law doesn't work. Failure is that the king lifted their hand too soon. We know that reality is wax that must cool to sustain the form of your desire. We know that time is not a delay, but the necessary process of energy densification. And we know that faith is not believing in miracles, but the sustained mechanical pressure of the seal upon the invisible substance. But intellectual knowledge is one thing. Emotional resistance is another. The king knows the law works. But the man who inhabits the body, the human being who lives in linear time, suffers. He suffers because he lives in the interval. The interval is the most dangerous space in metaphysical geography. It is no man's land. It is the desert that stretches between the burning of the old ships, your decision to change, and the appearance of the new city, your result. In this desert there are no signs. There are no maps. The landscape looks identical day after day. The old reality, scarcity, loneliness, pain, is still there, looking at you with mocking eyes, while your new reality remains invisible. This is where the false kings die. Here is where the ego screams, "It's a lie, I've been fooled. If it were real, it would be here already." And in that scream they lift the seal. They break the pressure. And the wax which was about to set spills out formlessly. To cross the desert of the interval, you need armored psychology. You need to understand the alchemy of active waiting. The first symptom you will experience when applying the law of the seal is a feeling of dissociation. You will feel as if you are living two simultaneous lives. Your physical eyes see the old house, the old balance, the old body, world of cold wax. Your inner eye sees the palace, the wealth, the vitality, world of hot-molded wax. Society calls this denial or madness. Forbidden metaphysics calls it bilocated consciousness. It is the necessary state of the creator. You cannot build the new if you are completely immersed in the old. But neither can you ignore the physical, because you have to walk, eat, and pay bills in it. The challenge of the interval is to maintain the hierarchy. The fatal error is to allow the physical world to dictate your truth to the mental world. You look at the bill, physical, and feel fear, mental. There you have lost. The cold wax has imprinted your mind. The slave has commanded the king. Mastery consists of allowing the mental world to dictate the truth to the physical world, even when the physical resists. You look at the bill, physical, but you maintain the feeling of abundance, mental. There you have won. The king has maintained the pressure on the wax. You must learn to walk through your current life like an actor, walking on a stage that has already been condemned for demolition. You interact with the objects, you say your lines, you pay the price of admission, but you don't attach to anything. You know that everything you see is temporary. You know that the true structure is setting in the invisible. This real indifference is the shield that protects your mind from desperation during the wait. The silence of God, why there are no signs. One of the greatest tortures of the interval is the silence. You have done the ritual. You have felt the fire. You have cried with gratitude. And then, nothing. The universe does not applaud. The sky does not open. You don't find a coin in the street. The phone doesn't ring. The silence is absolute, and that silence is interpreted by the ego as indifference or absence. The universe hasn't heard me. You must reconfigure your understanding of silence. In the physics of crystallization, silence is a good sign. When you build a building, the foundation phase is noisy and visible. But the phase where the concrete is setting is silent and invisible. If the concrete made noise, it would mean it's cracking. When a seed germinates underground, it does so in absolute silence and total darkness. If the seed spoke or showed itself prematurely, it would die. The silence of the universe during the interval is not absence of activity. It is the density of the activity. The energy is working at levels so deep, reorganizing causes so fundamental, moving pieces of destiny so heavy that the surface remains still due to the tension of what is happening underneath. Do not ask for signs. Signs are for the weak of faith. Signs are crumbs. The king does not ask for signs that their order is being fulfilled. The king knows their order is being fulfilled because they gave it. Silence is the sound of the respect the universe has for your decree. It is too busy obeying to stop and chat with you. The trap of almost, the false dawn. Sometimes during the interval something cruel happens. You visualize perfect love. And a week later, you meet someone, they seem perfect, you get excited, you say, here it is, and then the person disappears or turns out to be a disaster. You visualize money, and you get a job offer, you get excited, and then the offer is withdrawn. This is the false dawn. It is the almost, and it destroys more aspirants than total silence, because the disappointment of almost having it is more bitter than having nothing. But in the physics of the wax, the almost has a mechanical explanation. When you start heating reality and pressing it, the surface layers of the wax move first. Reality starts to tremble. It starts spitting out drafts or prototypes. The universe is sending you adjustment echoes. It is calibrating the frequency. The mistake is to get attached to the prototype. The mistake is to cry over the almost. The master looks at the almost, smiles, and says, "Excellent. The machinery is awake, the gears are turning. This was not what I wanted, but it is the shadow that what I want casts before arriving. I maintain the pressure. Do not chase the mirages. Keep the seal fixed until the real thing arrives. The dark night, the final resistance, the extinction burst. Just before the wax finally hardens into the new form, a violent phenomenon often occurs. The old reality, the old form you are trying to erase, seems to get worse. You are visualizing wealth, and suddenly your car breaks down and you lose money. You are visualizing health and you get a terrible flu. You are visualizing love, and you have the worst fight of the year with your partner. Behavioral psychology calls this the extinction burst. Physics calls it transition turbulence. When you are forcing a system to change state, from ice to water, from poverty to wealth, the old structure must break to release the energy it contains. That break is chaotic, it is noisy, it is painful. The debris of your old life has to fall to make room for the new. Most people see this chaos and say, "I've made things worse, metaphysics is dangerous, I quit," and they rush back to the safety of their old mediocre life. The king sees the chaos, sees the broken car, sees the fight, and remains impassive. They know that the chaos is the sound of victory. They know that the old reality is falling apart because it can no longer sustain itself against the pressure of the new identity. The darkness is deepest just before dawn. The pressure is maximum just before the wax sets. If your life seems to be collapsing after you started applying the seal, celebrate it. It means the seal is winning. It means the resistance of matter has broken. Do not withdraw your hand now. Press harder. The occupation strategy: how to wait without waiting. So what do you do with your body and mind during the interval? If you can't stick your finger in and you can't row, do you remain paralyzed? No. Paralysis is frozen doubt. You must practice anticipatory occupation. You don't wait for the guest to arrive, you prepare the table. If you truly believed your desire was an inevitable fact that was only cooling in time, how would you act today? You would not be anxious. You would be busy preparing to receive. If you expect wealth, you would organize your current finances, clean your wallet, prepare the accounts. If you expect love, you would make space in your closet, buy a second pillow, become the person that partner would love. These actions do not cause the manifestation. The cause is mental. These actions maintain the temperature of the cause. They are acts of physical faith. They tell your subconscious, "Look, I am so sure it's coming, I'm already making space." This is the correct way to spend time, not watching the clock, but preparing the welcome party. Saturation, the precipitation point. Finally, you must understand how the process ends. In chemistry, when you dissolve salt in hot water, a point is reached where the water cannot hold any more salt. It is called the saturation point. If you add a single grain more, suddenly, all the dissolved salt precipitates and forms solid crystals on the bottom. It happens all at once. Manifestation works the same way. Every day you sustain the seal, your I am identity. You are adding salt to the universe's solution. You are saturating the quantum field with your frequency. The interval is the time it takes you to saturate the field. It may seem like nothing is happening. The water still looks like clear water, but the concentration is rising. And one day you add the last grain of faith, the last minute of gratitude, and boom! Reality precipitates, the crystal forms, the phone rings, the money arrives, the healing is verified. The change seems instantaneous, a stroke of luck, the ignorant will say, but it was the result of an invisible, sustained saturation over time. Your job is not to crystallize, the law does that. Your job is to keep adding salt, to keep sustaining the pressure, to keep being the king day after day in the silence of your mind until physics has no choice but to yield. Chapter 4. The Inverse Engraving, the Design of Identity. To observe a real sealing ring, look closely at it. The image on the ring does not protrude, it is sunken. It is a hollow, it is concave. However, when you press that hollow against the wax, the resulting image in reality protrudes. It is convex. What is empty on the ring becomes full on the wax. What is left on the ring becomes right on the wax. What is deep on the ring becomes high on the wax. This is the exact mechanics of manifestation. Your subconscious mind and your identity function like that ring. If you want your external reality, the wax, to display a mountain of wealth, your internal reality, the ring, must have a valley of capacity carved out for that wealth. Most people try to create mental mountains. They fill themselves with ego, arrogance, I know, and noise. Their ring is full, it is flat or convex. And when they press a full ring against the wax is displaced to the sides, it leaves no mark. It creates no form. To receive, you must first create the exact geometric space of what you wish to receive. You must carve your identity. Here lies the distinction between desiring and being. Desiring is looking at the wax and saying, I wish it had the shape of a crown. You are focused on the absence of form on the wax. Being identity is having the shape of the crown engraved so deeply into your own mental metal that you don't care what the wax looks like now, because you know that any wax you touch will have to take that form. The universe, the wax, does not respond to your shouts. It responds to your structure. The wax is a fluid that by physical law must fill any vacuum presented to it. If your identity has a deep defined hollow in the shape of abundance, the universal energy will rush in to fill that hollow and solidify as money. If your identity has a hollow in the shape of the victim, the universal energy will fill that mold and solidify as injustice. The question is not, what do I want to attract? The question is, what shape is the mold that I am? How is this mold created in the mind? How is the ring engraved? It is not by accumulating knowledge. It is not by adding things. Engraving is a process of subtraction. The goldsmith takes a solid block of gold and removes material. They cut, they carve. They eliminate what is superfluous to leave the empty space where the image will form. To forge your identity as king, you don't need to learn to be powerful. You are already pure gold in essence. What you need is to carve away the layers of false identity that have filled your mold. You must use the burren of truth to cut away. The belief that you are small. The belief that you depend on others. The belief that you are your past. Every time you eliminate a mental limitation, I can't do this, you are deepening the engraving on your ring. You are creating more space. You are making the mold sharper. The deeper you carve, the more you remove the false ego and fear. The higher the relief will be in your physical reality. A superficial identity creates a flat life. A deep identity, carved with the pain and discipline of subtraction, creates a monumental life. The inverse logic, faith as the mold. This principle of inverse engraving explains why logic fails. Logic looks outward. It looks at the wax. It says, there is no money in the wax, therefore there is no money. Forbidden metaphysics looks inward. It looks at the ring. It says, I have the mold of money in my mind, therefore money is inevitable the moment it touches matter. The job of the identity architect is to completely ignore the current shape of the wax, your circumstances, and obsess exclusively with the perfection of the engraving on the ring, your self-concept. If the engraving is perfect, the impression will be perfect. It doesn't matter if the wax is hard, soft, black or white. The seal always wins. The tragedy of inversion, when the world seals you. Let's analyze this phenomenon, because it is the exact description of the victim's life. The sealing process is a battle of pressures. You have your identity, your inner vision, I am prosperous. You have reality, the external circumstance, debt and scarcity. When these two surfaces come into contact, the harder one will mark the softer one. It is simple physics. If your sense of identity is weak, soft metal, and the reality of debt feels solid and terrifying, hard wax, the debt will become the seal, and you will become the wax. The external world imprints its form onto your mind. You see the debt, and your mind takes the shape of fear. You see the illness, and your mind takes the shape of the victim. You become an impression of your environment. You are molded by the news, by the economy, by your neighbor's opinion. You have lost sovereignty. You have abdicated the throne. To reclaim power, you must subject your identity to a tempering process. You must transmute the lead of your insecurity into the diamond gold of dignity. The alchemy of spiritual gold, dignity as hardness. What makes an identity hard in the metaphysical sense? It is not stubbornness. It is not rigidity. Glass is hard but breaks. It is not arrogance. Arrogance is a false metal. It is hollow inside. It inflates to look big, but under the real pressure of life it is crushed. The king's material is dignity. In forbidden metaphysics, dignity is not social honor. It is structural integrity. It is the cellular, absolute and non-negotiable knowledge of your own value and your position in the cosmic hierarchy. The king knows that they are the cause and the world is the effect. This conviction acts as a molecular density in the mind. When you have metaphysical dignity, your vibration is heavy in the sense of gravity and authority. When a negative circumstance hits a dignified mind, it is like a wave hitting a rock. The rock does not flinch. The wave breaks and conforms to the shape of the rock. To forge this metal requires that you eliminate the impurities that soften it. What are the impurities that weaken your ring? The need for approval. If you need the world to tell you that you are good, your metal is liquid. Any criticism deforms you. Victimization. The belief that the world has power over you. This turns your ring into wax. Doubt. These are air bubbles inside the metal. Under pressure, the ring shatters. The process of inverse engraving not only defines the image of the ring, but purifies the material. By carving and removing what you are not, what remains is the pure, dense, and indestructible substance of your I am. Let's return to the mechanics of engraving. We said the ring must be concave, hollow, to create a convex reality, full. This means that to manifest, you must create space. The average person's mind is full. It is full of noise, full of I want, full of anxiety, full of strategies to control the how. A full ring is a flat surface. If you press a flat surface against the wax, you only flatten it. You leave no defined image. You create no relief. The king carves a void in their mind. To create wealth, carve the void of receptivity. Eliminate the belief of I must struggle, and leave the clean space of I am ready to receive. To create love, carve the void of sufficiency. Eliminate desperate need and leave the clean space of I am whole. This void is not nothingness, it is a suction mold. In physics, a vacuum creates suction. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you create a defined psychological and energetic space in your identity, a mold of owner of an empire, the universe will be compelled by the law of osmotic pressure to rush into that mold and fill it with matter, resources, people, money. The deeper you carve the mold, the more you eliminate your ego and your fear, the higher the mountain that will rise in your reality. The humility of the wise is not modesty, it is engineering. They make themselves empty so that power can fill them. They make themselves nothing to be able to manifest everything. How is this hard metal carved? How is depth created in the soul? Sometimes carving is voluntary, meditation, renunciation of beliefs. But often the universe helps you with the sharpest tool it possesses, pain. This is where your perception of suffering changes. Pain, loss, crisis are not punishments. They are the engraver's burin. When you lose something you loved, the universe is carving a deeper space in your identity. It is removing material. It is creating a larger hollow. If you react with victimhood, you fill that hollow with trash, bitterness, and the mold is ruined. But if you react with the alchemy of the king, you accept the carving. You say, this pain is excavating my capacity to feel more joy. This loss is excavating my capacity to receive more abundance. The people with the most powerful identities, the kings and queens of reality, are often those who have been deeply carved by life. They have depth of character, and that depth is, literally, the mold that allows them to sustain great empires and great realities. A flat, superficial soul cannot manifest a deep life. The inverse logic of desire, stopping the push. The practical application of inverse engraving requires that you reverse your instinct to push. When you desire something with the ego, soft metal, you tend to push outwards. I want that job. You push your energy toward the job. I want that person. You push your energy toward the person. In the world of wax and the seal, pushing is an error. If your ring is convex, protrudes outwards, it will push the wax away from the center. It will scatter reality. Need pushes away what it desires. Inverse engraving is concave, inward. Instead of pushing your energy toward the object, you remove the internal obstacle that prevents the object from coming. You create a space of irresistible invitation. Instead of chasing money, you become the perfect mold for money. You become the thing itself, in negative, in potential. And then, reality collapses towards you. You don't chase it. The wax flows toward the hollow of the ring. This is magnetic attraction. It is not a force going out. It is a space that calls. The king does not chase. The king sits on the throne knowing that their own gravity, their carved identity, will bring the tributes to their feet. Finally, for the seal to leave a clear, sharp impression, it must be clean. If the grooves of your ring are filled with dirt, grease, or dust, the impression on the wax will come out blurry, dirty, unrecognizable. What is the dirt on the ring of identity? It is the mask, it is the pretense. It is when you try to project an image of success to impress the neighbors, but inside you feel failure. It is when you pretend to be spiritual, but inside you are full of judgment. That falsehood is mud in the mold. When you press that dirty ring against reality, You get a confused, half-finished life, full of misunderstandings and almost successes. The universe cannot read your design because it is obstructed by your hypocrisy. Inverse engraving demands radical honesty. You must clean the ring with the acid of truth. You must admit who you are, what you fear, what you truly desire, not what you should desire. You must eliminate pretense. A clean ring, even if the design is simple, leaves a perfect, beautiful mark. A complex but dirty ring leaves nothing. Authenticity is the sharpness of the seal. To bend reality, you must be real. The wax does not respect actors, it respects substance. You have forged the ring. You have used subtraction to carve a concave design of capacity and power. You have used pain to deepen the relief. You have cleaned the dirt of pretense. Your identity is now spiritual gold, dignified, dense, authentic. Now comes the moment of truth. You have to apply the seal, and applying the seal requires pressure. Not brute force, but sustained pressure. Reality, the wax, does not yield to a timid touch. It requires the king to put the entire weight of their being behind the seal. It requires that when circumstances say no, you press with an internal yes that is heavier than the world. This pressure is will, but not the will to fight. It is the will to remain. It is the capacity to hold the mold of your identity, I am rich, against the wax of the circumstance, empty account, and not withdraw your hand until the wax yields and takes the shape of the ring. If you withdraw your hand at the first resistance from the wax, the imprint fails. If you maintain the pressure, with the absolute calm of one who knows that metal is harder than wax, the transformation is inevitable. The wax has to move. Chapter 5. The Precious Metal, Self-Worth. In forbidden metaphysics, worth is not a moral concept. It is not about whether you are a good person. To the universe, in its mechanical aspect, your goodness does not matter. Your mass matters. In physics, objects with greater mass have greater gravity. They attract things toward them. Gold is one of the densest metals. A small gold coin weighs more than a large block of wood. It has greater specific gravity. Your self-worth is your specific gravity. If you feel unworthy, das small man insecure defy your metal is porous. It is like pumice stone. You have a lot of volume, perhaps a lot of ego, a lot of noise, but little mass. Your gravity is weak. Opportunities float past you and are not captured. When you try to press your will onto the wax of reality, your porous metal is crushed, you leave no mark. If you possess sovereign dignity, high self-worth, your metal is dense. You don't need to take up much space or make much noise. Your simple presence has weight. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere changes. When you touch reality, the wax sinks under your pressure. Bad luck is often the diagnosis of a light metal. You are a leaf in the wind moved by circumstances, instead of being the gold ingot that anchors reality. The beggar's lead, the alloy of need. Most of humanity is forged in lead. In alchemy, lead represents heavy, opaque, and toxic consciousness. How do you know if your ring is made of lead? By its reactivity. Lead is a base metal. It corrodes easily, stains, and reacts with acid. A lead identity is defined by need. You need external validation to shine, because you have no intrinsic shine. You need circumstances to be perfect to feel secure. You need others to love you to feel worthy. This need makes you soft. When reality gets hard, a crisis, a rejection, the lead bends. You collapse. You adapt to the shape of the problem instead of forcing the problem to adapt to your shape. If your identity is, I am valuable only if I have money, then money is the seal and you are the wax. Lead is always the victim of external imprinting. The goal of the great work is the transmutation of lead into gold. Gold is the noble metal. Why is it called noble? Because it is incorruptible. It does not rust, it does not stain, it does not react to acid. If you bury it in the mud for 1,000 years, when you take it out, it will still shine with the same intensity. Its shine does not depend on the environment. It is intrinsic. Her gold identity is one that has found its worth within itself, independent of the wax, the world. The king knows they are king, whether they have a palace or are naked in the desert. The master knows they are abundant, whether they have millions in the bank or zero. This independence of value is what makes the metal hard. When the world tells the king you are poor, The king does not react, does not rust. Their gold identity remains unaltered, and it is that unalterability that eventually forces reality to change. If the world presses you and you do not deform, the world is the one that deforms. The law of level, the container of reality. There is a hydraulic rule in manifestation. The liquid, reality, can never rise higher than the walls of the container. Your self-worth is the container. If you have a container the size of a teacup, you believe you deserve little, you can stand under a waterfall of infinite abundance, and you will only be able to retain a teacup. The rest will spill over. This explains why lottery winners lose everything. The universe gave them an ocean, money, but their identity was a thimble, lead, unworthiness. The thimble's structure could not withstand the pressure of the ocean and broke. They returned to their original level of worth. You cannot manifest anything greater than your own sense of deserving. If you try to build an empire on a foundation of "I am not enough," the empire will crush the foundations. The universe, in its mercy, often denies you your big desires because it knows your current identity structure would collapse under their weight. Before asking for more weight, more reality, you must reinforce the metal. You must increase your density. Sometimes we try to pretend we are gold. We cover our lead with a thin layer of gold leaf, arrogance, ostentation, titles. This works for a while until the pressure comes. In the moment of testing, the gold plating cracks and the dark lead is revealed. This is the imposter syndrome. It is the constant terror that reality will discover that you are not solid inside. The universe always tests the quality of the metal. It will send you challenges not to punish you, but to rehearse your integrity. It will send you a problem to see if you bend, lead, or if you hold firm, gold. If you bend, the universe says, "Not ready yet. Return it to the furnace." If you hold firm, the universe says, "The seal is authentic, your will be done." We know that lead, need, doubt, victimization is a soft metal that deforms under the pressure of reality, turning you into an impression of the world instead of its imprinter. And we know that gold, dignity, sovereignty, is the only metal dense and noble enough to sustain the form of your desire until matter yields. But how does one become the other? Most modern teachings will tell you that you must build your self-esteem, that you must add affirmations, add achievements, add validation. Forbidden metaphysics reveals the opposite. Gold is not built. Gold is not added. Gold is revealed. You are already gold in your core essence. The divine spark, the I Am, is incorruptible. The problem is that this gold is trapped in a toxic alloy. It is mixed with tons of dross, inherited beliefs, traumas, and the opinions of others. You do not need to improve. You need to refine yourself. And refinement is not a process of gentle addition. It is a process of controlled destruction. It is the process of subjecting the alloy to the fire until everything that is not gold burns off and separates. We enter the crucible, the dross theory identifying the intruder. To operate the furnace, you must first identify what is to be burned. The goldsmith knows that dross floats to the surface when the metal melts. In your psyche, the dross is the external identity. It is everything you have added to yourself to survive, to be accepted, to fit into the mold of society. The dross of complacency. The part of you that says yes when it means no, just to keep the peace, that is lead. It is structural weakness. The dross of comparison. The part of you that looks at the neighbor to know if you are successful, that is lead. Your worth depends on an external variable. The dross of guilt. The belief that you must pay for existing or for succeeding. That is corrosive lead. These are not you. They are vibrational parasites adhered to your structure. As long as they are there, your metal will be brittle. If you try to stamp a seal of power with this alloy, it will shatter at the moment of pressure. Transmutation demands the death of the false self. The crisis furnace, the purifying fire. How is dross separated from gold? With extreme heat. In the initiate's life, this heat often presents itself as crisis. Here your relationship with adversity changes. The lead mind sees crisis, a divorce, a bankruptcy, an illness, as a tragedy, proof that I am worthless. The gold mind, or the mind that is awakening, sees crisis as the ignition of the furnace. When life presses you, when everything you used for validation, your money, your partner, your status, melts or disappears, you are at the melting point. It is a terrifying moment. You feel like you are dying. And it is true, the dross is dying, your dependence is burning off, your false ego is dissolving. The king does not flee the furnace. They stay in the center of the fire and observe. They observe how the need for approval evaporates. They observe how the fear of "what will people say" turns to ash. And when the fire dies down, they look at what remains. What remains is that which the fire could not burn. What remains is what does not depend on anything external. What remains is your intrinsic worth, your gold. If you are going through hell, rejoice, it is the foundry. You are being prepared to be a king. Only molten metal can be purified. Rigidity is your enemy. Heat is your ally. Protocol 1. The validation fast. Cutting the lead supply. You do not have to wait for a catastrophic crisis to purify yourself. You can light the furnace yourself through discipline. The main source of contamination of your metal is the search for validation. Every time you do something for applause, to be loved, or to avoid criticism, you are injecting lead into your blood. You are diluting your sovereignty. The king's protocol is the validation fast. For a period of time, or as a lifestyle, you must consciously renounce the drug of external approval. Do excellent things and don't tell anyone. Eliminate the external reward. When someone criticizes you, do not defend yourself. Observe the burning sensation, the ego burning, and let it pass. Do not seek to correct their opinion. Their opinion is wax. You are the seal. Make unpopular decisions if they are the right ones for your design. By cutting off the supply of external validation, you force your system to seek a new energy source, and the only source remaining is internal validation. You begin to value yourself not because they say you are good, but because you know you are truth. This is the moment the metal densifies. The gravity of your being increases. You become heavy in the best sense of the word, unmovable, centered, real. Protocol 2. The law of the minimum standard, the price of gold. Gold is valuable because it is scarce, and because it does not mix with just anything. Your identity is defined by what you tolerate. If you tolerate mistreatment, your metal is lead. If you tolerate mediocrity in your work, your metal is tin. If you tolerate self-contempt thoughts, your metal is trash. The refinement process requires you to raise your admission standards. The king sets a sacred perimeter around their mind and life. I do not accept thoughts of poverty in my mind. They are unworthy of my crown. I do not accept relationships where I am not honored. They are corrosive to my metal. I do not accept junk food in my temple. It is an insult to my vehicle. Every time you say no to something below your dignity, you are polishing the gold. The no is the sculptor's tool that removes the excess. Many believe that to manifest, you have to say yes to everything. False. To manifest quality, you must have an extreme quality filter. The universe will test you. It will send you crumbs to see if you are hungry for lead. If you accept the crumbs, the universe says, their price is low, let's keep giving them little. If you reject the crumbs calmly without anger, simply because it's not what I asked for, the universe says, this one knows their worth, bring the banquet. Your external reality is the exact price you have placed on your own head. Raise the price. Protocol 3. The alchemical marriage, self-sufficiency. The final level of the precious metal is completeness. Lead always seeks to combine because it is unstable. The insecure person seeks their better half, their soulmate, the job that will complete them. They seek externally what they lack internally. Gold is chemically stable. It does not need to combine to be perfect. The king's identity is that of vibrational self-sufficiency. It does not mean you do not love or relate. It means you do not need the other to be you. You enter a relationship not to be completed, but to share your completeness. You enter a business not to survive, but to extend your power. When you reach this state, you become magnetically irresistible. The paradox of the seal is that reality chases those who do not need it. When the wax feels the touch of cold, self-sufficient and complete gold, it melts with desire to be molded by it. Need repels, sufficiency attracts. Your job is to become an entire universe within your own skin. How do you know that your metal is already pure gold? By the acid test. The world's acid is rejection, failure, loss, insult. If you pour acid on lead, it bubbles, dissolves, and corrodes. You get offended, depressed, attack yourself. If you pour acid on gold, the acid slides off. The gold shines even cleaner. The final state of self-worth is divine indifference to the world's opinion. It is not arrogance. Arrogance gets offended because it doubts deep down. It is the quiet certainty of one who knows what they are. If you are insulted, it does not affect you because you know that the insult does not change your chemical composition. If you lose money, you do not collapse because you know that you are the source of the money, not the money the source of you. This invulnerability is the mark of the master seal. When you press this seal against reality, reality has no fissure to grab onto to resist. The pressure is uniform, perfect, and absolute. Matter yields. Chapter 6. Cleaning the relief, eliminating beliefs. Why do so many people work on themselves, visualize and affirm, but their results are mediocre or confused? Because their seal is dirty. They are pressing the wealth design against reality, but the grooves of that design are half filled with the dirt of money corrupts, or it's hard to earn. When the wax, reality, tries to enter the mold to take the shape of wealth, it encounters that obstruction. It cannot fill the hollow. The result is a blurred imprint. You get money but with problems. You get the relationship but with drama. You get health but with fear of losing it. Reality is not sharp because your signal is not clean. In forbidden metaphysics, dirt is not sin. It is noise, it is contradiction. You cannot have a design that says, I am free, if the grooves are filled with I need approval. The universe is a high-fidelity system. It reproduces exactly what is on the ring, including the dirt. If your life is confused, it is because your identity is dirty. Residue analysis. What is clogging your design? To clean the ring, you must first identify the type of dirt that has become embedded in it. There are 3 main types of residue that block the perfect imprint. Find the mud of inheritance, family beliefs. This is the oldest and most difficult residue to see. It is at the bottom of the engraving. These are the truths you accepted before you had conscious reasoning. Life is a struggle. Men, women are untrustworthy. You have to settle. Although your conscious mind, the new design, wants success, this old mud occupies the space. When you press the seal, reality collides with this mud. Instead of fluid success, you manifest struggle, because the mud of life is struggle is preventing the wax from taking the shape of ease. Toss the dust of culture, the collective consensus. This residue accumulates every day. It is the opinion of the masses. It is the fear of the economy, the fear of aging, the fear of illness that floats in the news and conversations. If you don't clean your ring daily, this dust settles. And even if you are a king of gold, if your ring is covered in dust, the imprint will be weak. The wax will not touch the gold. It will touch the dust. Your reality will be a copy of the mass reality, not a creation of your sovereignty. 3. The grease of doubt, personal insecurity. Doubt is an oily, slippery substance. If your ring is greased with maybe it won't work or what if I mess up, when you try to press onto the wax, the ring will slip. You will not be able to maintain the fixed position necessary for cooling. Chapter 3. The image will come out blurry, double, distorted. Doubt prevents adherence. It prevents reality from sticking to your will. The cost of ambiguity. The universe hates ambiguity. The wax needs sharp edges to take a defined form. A dirty ring has soft edges rounded by grime. This creates a life of almost. You almost got the job. You almost got cured. You were almost happy. The almost is the clinical symptom of a dirty relief. It means the general shape is there, but the details are obstructed. The king does not accept almost. The king demands precision, and to obtain precision, they must subject their own mind to a process of ruthless cleaning. They must scrape the dirt down to the live metal. Cleaning the relief requires brutal honesty. You must look at every area of your life where results are blurry and ask yourself, what contradictory belief is occupying the space of my desire? If you desire love, the hollow in the ring, but it doesn't arrive, what is filling that hollow? Is it the belief of I will be hurt? Is it the belief of I will lose my freedom? That belief is a stone in the mold. As long as it is there, love cannot enter, because the space is already occupied by fear. Remember the physics of inverse engraving. Chapter 4. The universe fills the voids. If the void is filled with trash, limiting beliefs, the universe cannot fill it with gold, manifested reality. Two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. Either you have the limiting belief or you have the manifestation of freedom. You cannot have both. For the new reality to enter, the old belief must be literally excavated and expelled. Most spiritual disciplines tell you to ignore the dirt. They tell you to focus on the light. Forbidden metaphysics tells you, if you ignore the dirt, it petrifies. The mud that is not cleaned turns to stone. And once it turns to stone, it permanently alters the shape of your seal. You cannot paint over the mud. You must remove it. But these embedded beliefs, I am not enough, money is evil, love hurts, have hardened for decades. They are like dry cement. Water and soap, gentle positive affirmations, will not touch them. You need an industrial cleaning agent. You need a reagent capable of eating away the lie without harming the gold of your truth. You need the acid protocol. The acid of truth, the dissolution of the lie. The first reagent in the king's laboratory is the acid of radical truth. The dirt in your mind is, in essence, a solidified lie. A limiting belief is not a fact. It is an opinion that has been repeated so many times it has gained density. To eliminate it, you must subject it to a bath of logical and vibrational acid. The corrosive interrogation technique: you do not fight the belief. You interrogate it until it disintegrates. When you detect a residue on your ring, e.g. the fear of charging for your work, you put it under the microscope and apply the acid. 1. Residue identification. I believe that if I charge too much, people will hate me. This is mud in the wealth groove. 2. Acid application. Question 1. Is this absolutely true? The mind will say, yes, it seems true. 3. Corrosion increase. Question 2. Whose voice is this? Is it mine or is it my father's, mother's, society's? By identifying the voice as external, the mud softens. It is no longer your truth, it is a foreign object. 4. Total dissolution. Question 3. What does it cost me to keep this dirt here? What is the price I pay for this loyalty to a lie? The pain of the answer, poverty, limitation, acts as a solvent. The king realizes they are protecting their enemy. 5. The rinse, the truth. What is the truth of the gold? The truth is that my service is valuable and the exchange is sacred. This process is not comfortable. The acid burns, it burns the ego, it burns the loyalty to the victim. But when the smoke clears, the mud is gone, the ring groove is clean, shiny, and ready to leave a sharp mark of prosperity. The king is not afraid to question their own beliefs. They know that what is truth, gold, will survive the acid, and what is a lie, mud, will disappear. Acid is gold's best friend. The forgiveness scraper, removing the glue. Sometimes the mud does not come out with acid alone. It is stuck with an extra strong adhesive. That adhesive is resentment. The hardest beliefs to clean are those tied to an emotional wound. I don't trust men, mud in the love groove, is stuck with the glue of I hate my ex. As long as you hold the glue of hatred, the belief will not move. You can affirm I am love all day, but the mud remains, protected by the grudge. Here you need the mechanical tool, the forgiveness scraper. In the metaphysics of the seal, forgiveness is not a moral or religious act. It is not about being good. It is about mechanical hygiene. Resentment is rust. Resentment is dirty glue. Forgiving is the purely technical act of scraping away that glue so the dirt can fall out. The king does not forgive because the other person deserves forgiveness. The king forgives because their seal is too valuable to be dirty. They say, your betrayal does not deserve to occupy space on my ring. I expel you. I scrape your memory from my metal. I don't hate you. I simply eliminate you so that my design can be perfect again. Forgiveness is an act of restoring sharpness. It is sacred selfishness. You clean the ring so your imprint on reality is impeccable. If you hold a grudge, your imprint on the wax will be stained with the face of your enemy. The ultrasonic bath, the daily silence. You have cleaned the major crusts of mud, old beliefs, and the glue, resentments, but the ring gets dirty every day. The dust of culture, the news, the collective fear, settles in the fine grooves of your design every time you go outside. If you don't have a maintenance protocol, within a week, your seal will be opaque again. Reality will become grey and confused. The king uses the ultrasonic bath of silence. In jewelry, ultrasound, high-frequency vibration in water, is used to dislodge dust from unreachable places. In the mind, deep meditation or absolute silence acts as that ultrasound. When you enter no thought, when you stop the noise of the world and of your own analytical mind, you elevate your vibrational frequency. This high vibration shakes off the dust of daily negativity. The sarcastic comment from a colleague. The news headline that frightened you. The fleeting doubt. All of that detaches in the silence. The king never goes to sleep with a dirty ring. Before resting, they submerge their mind in the void of silence. They let the pure vibration of the I am clean the debris of the day. They wake up with a pristine ring, ready to imprint a new, fresh and sharp reality without the contamination of yesterday. For a mirror finish, for the imprint to be high definition, you need to work on the details. The subtlest dirt hides in your language. The words you use are the polishing tools. They either scratch the ring or they polish it. The novice says, "I will try to do this." The word try is an abrasion on the metal. It creates a rough surface. The imprint on the wax will be of attempt, not of achievement. The king says, "I will do this," or better yet, "it is done." The king's language is binary. It is yes or no. It is 0 or 1. There is no maybe, no I hope. You must cleanse your vocabulary of low-resolution words. Eliminate try. Eliminate hope. Eliminate I can't. Eliminate difficult. Substitute them with high-definition words. I decide. I command. I choose. I am. Every time you correct your language, you are passing a velvet cloth over the gold. You are bringing out the shine. You are ensuring that, when the seal touches the wax, there is not a single micron of space between your will and reality. The energy transfer will be 100%. When you have cleaned the mud, the glue, and the dust, you encounter something that can frighten the ego. Empty space. The design grooves are hollow. Before, they were filled with victim stories or dramas and excuses. Those things gave you a false sense of identity. You felt full, even if it was with garbage. Now the ring is clean and hollow. You feel an internal void. You no longer have the drama to entertain yourself. You no longer have the excuse to protect yourself. This is the sacred void. It is the critical moment of faith. The ego will want to fill that void quickly with any noise, with any distraction. The king holds the void. They know that that hollow in the ring is the cup that reality is going to fill. They know that by the law of inverse engraving, the wax matter can only flow where there is space. The king protects that void with their life. They do not let doubt enter. They remain in a state of serene expectation. I have created the space. I have cleaned the mold. Now the physics of the universe must pour the liquid gold of manifestation into this hollow. Cleaning is not just hygiene, it is the creation of capacity. The cleaner your ring, the more reality you can contain. The deeper the engraving, the higher the relief of your success. The signal of sharpness, accelerated synchronicity. How do you know your ring is clean? What is the signal that the process has worked? The signal is the speed and sharpness of the universe's response. When the ring is dirty, reality responds slowly and confusedly. You ask for money and you get a high-interest loan. You ask for love and you get someone who looks like your ex. It is a blurred imprint. When the ring is clean, reality responds with high definition. You ask for money and a perfect, clean and fast opportunity arrives. You ask for health and you find the exact remedy the next day. Synchronicity becomes instantaneous and precise. There is no longer noise on the line. The communication between your seal and the wax is direct. You begin to live a life of magical sniping. You take aim, fire the intention, and reality falls. No struggle, no drama, no delay. That is the reward of cleanliness. The ultimate goal of this chapter is not for you to clean your ring once. It is for you to become incorruptible, to develop a mental surface so polished, so hard, and so noble that the dirt of the world simply slides off. You become a non-stick material for negativity. People can throw their mud at you. The economy can throw its dust, but nothing sticks. Your design remains intact. When you reach this state, you are dangerous to the control system because you are unbribable and unstainable. You are a sovereign king. Your identity is yours, and no one can write over it without your permission. Chapter 7. The Authority of the Hand, the Will. Here is where most great spiritual works fail. The initiate has the clear vision, they have the elevated feeling, but when the time comes to apply that vision to the resistant reality, their hand trembles, they doubt, they withdraw the pressure prematurely, or they push with such desperation that they break the mold. The seventh law of the Seal of Kings is the law of stability. The clarity of the imprint is directly proportional to the firmness of the hand. Will is not the force that strikes, it is the force that sustains. Welcome to the anatomy of the King's hand. We must purge your mind of the vulgar concept of willpower. Society has taught you that will is the act of gritting your teeth, tensing muscles, and fighting exhaustion. They have told you that will is dynamic effort. Fight for your dreams, don't give up. This is the will of the slave. It is the will of one who rose against the current. It is a friction energy, exhausting and finite. In the metaphysics of the seal, will is static. It is not the force of a boxer hitting, it is the force of a mountain. The mountain doesn't do anything. It doesn't sweat, it doesn't strive, it simply remains. And because it remains, the wind, the rain, and time must go around it. The King's will is the capacity to hold the seal in place. Imagine the physical act of sealing. You lower your hand. You press the ring against the soft wax. And then, you stay still. You maintain constant pressure. You do not increase the force that would deform the wax. You do not decrease the force, the imprint would be weak. You simply sustain. This stability, this immobility under pressure, is the true will. It is the capacity to hold your vision of wealth or health fixed in your mind, without wavering, without doubting, without changing your mind, while the external world, the wax, cools and adapts to your mold. What happens if your hand trembles while sealing? The image comes out blurry, double, illegible. The wax, the universe, receives two superimposed images and creates a deformed monster. What is trembling in metaphysics? It is doubt and oscillation. On Monday, you decide, I am a successful entrepreneur. You apply the seal. On Tuesday, you see a bill and think, maybe I should look for a secure job. The hand trembles. On Wednesday, you get motivated again. No, I am an entrepreneur. You press again. On Thursday, you are afraid. This is too difficult. On you lift your hand. The result is a blurry reality. Your life is a confusing mix of success and failure, of advance and retreat. The universe doesn't know what shape to take because you cannot hold the mold still long enough for the wax to set. The King's hand does not tremble, not because the King has no fear, but because the King has trained their mental muscles for fixation. Will is the art of unwavering attention. It is looking at the target and not blinking. It is sustaining the musical note without it going off key. Firmness comes from authority. If you try to apply the seal with the energy of, I hope this works, your hand will be weak. If you apply the seal with the energy of, this is the law, your hand will be heavy. Metaphysical weight is not gravity, it is conviction. How much do you believe in your own right to stamp reality? The beggar asks permission from the wax to leave a mark. The wax ignores them. The King informs the wax of its new form. Will is the transmission of that authority. It is the channel through which your identity, the gold, flows toward matter, the wax. When your hand has authority, you don't need to push hard. The wax feels the weight of your conviction and yields. Reality is submissive to authentic authority. Matter, being feminine in its receptive polarity, yearns for the direction of a masculine, firm will. It wants to be commanded, but it only obeys one who commands without doubting. Will converts the operator into the axis mundi, the axis of the world. Imagine a wheel spinning at high speed, the chaos of daily life. If you try to grab the wheel by the edge, it will throw you far away. But if you place yourself at the axis, at the exact center, there is stillness. Will is the capacity to inhabit that center. While your emotions spin, while circumstances spin, while people around you spin in their dramas, you hold the ring in the unmoving center. I am. That immobility is what allows the wheel to spin around you without destroying you. Will is not movement. It is the fulcrum from which the world moves. Here we come to a Taoist subtlety. The King's hand applies pressure, yes, but it is not an action in the sense of frantic movement. It is static pressure. It is active tension. Imagine holding up a marble column so it doesn't fall. You are not moving, but you are exerting immense force. You are being the support. Will in manifestation is exactly that. It is sustaining the vision of your desire against the gravity of the collective consensus. It is maintaining faith when all seems lost. It is continuing to be the king when you are in exile. This action of not moving, this divine stubbornness to maintain the state of consciousness no matter what happens, is the most powerful force in the universe. It is the force that collapses the wave function. It is the force that compels chaos to order itself. The pulse training. No one is born with an iron hand. The hand is trained. The muscle of the will is atrophied by complacency and distraction. The digital age, with its instant gratification and fragmented 8-second attention span, has created a generation of trembling hands. No one can sustain a thought for more than a minute. That is why no one can manifest anything great. The king's training is the training of concentration. It is the capacity to choose an object, an image, a desire, a thought, and keep the mental hand on it until you decide to lift it. If you can sustain your attention on a single idea, excluding all others for long enough, that idea becomes the master seal. Before strengthening the hand, you must understand why it is weak. Your will has atrophied because you live in a culture designed to destroy concentration. The attention economy is a fragmentation machine. Notifications, infinite scrolling, instant gratification are constant hammer blows that fracture your ability to sustain a thought. You have been trained to be a passive receiver of stimuli, not an active emitter of intention. Your mind is accustomed to being moved by the external, not to moving from the internal. When you try to apply the seal, sustain the vision of your desire, your mind rebels. It feels pain. The attention muscle burns because you have never used it. The boredom, anxiety, and distraction you feel when trying to meditate or visualize are not signs that you can't do it. They are your mind's lactic acid. They are the signal that the muscle is weak. The king does not flee from that burning. The king seeks that burning, because they know that the muscle only grows under tension. Protocol 1. The ocular block, physical stability. The mind follows the body. It is impossible to have a firm mind if your eyes move like those of a frightened animal. The first training of the will is purely physiological, dominating the gaze. The eyes are the mind's handlebars. If your eyes jump from one object to another, your mind jumps from one thought to another. If your eyes fixate, your mind freezes. The black dot exercise. This is an ancient and brutally effective protocol. Draw a small black dot on a white wall. Sit in front of it. Fix your gaze on the dot. Your mission is simple. Do not move your eyes. Do not blink more than necessary. Do not let your gaze slide to the stain on the wall or the furniture next to it. At first you will feel violent resistance. Your eyes will want to flee. Your mind will shout excuses to look away. That resistance is the weakness of your will coming to the surface. Sustain the gaze, force your eyes to obey. When you manage to keep your physical eyes absolutely immobile for 3, 5, or 10 minutes, a miracle occurs. The mind stops. The internal dialogue falls silent. The will takes command. You have hardened the hand. If you can sustain your physical gaze on an insignificant dot, you can sustain your mental gaze, your seal, on your great desire without doubt diverting you. Protocol 2. The royal veto, the thought guillotine. Once you have stabilized the body, you must stabilize the flow of thoughts. Doubt is the tremor that ruins the imprint. What if it doesn't work? What if I lose the money? What if I get sicker? These thoughts are intruders in the throne room. Most people dialogue with their doubts. They try to reason with them. The king does not dialogue with intruders. The king uses the veto. Will is the capacity for inhibition. It is the force of no. The guillotine technique. When you are sustaining your seal, living in your new identity, and a thought of doubt appears, do not analyze it. Do not ask where it comes from. Cut off its head. The instant you detect the vibration of doubt, you apply a violent and silent veto. It is a dry mental movement, a vibrational out. You close the door in the thought's face. You deny it attention. At first, the doubt will return 100 times, and 100 times you will bring down the guillotine, without anger, without emotion, with the mechanical coldness of a machine that separates the wheat from the chaff. Fair time comes when doubt, receiving no sustenance, attention, starves to death. Your mind becomes a sacred space where only thoughts authorized by the king can live. This is aggressive mental hygiene. It is the only way to keep the seal clean. Protocol 3. Time under tension, hypertrophy of faith. In bodybuilding, the muscle does not grow from lifting the weight, but from the time under tension. The longer you sustain the weight against gravity, the more force you generate. In forbidden metaphysics, gravity is the current reality, scarcity the problem. The weight is your new vision, the solution. Most people sustain the vision for 15 minutes in their morning meditation. Then they release the weight and spend the rest of the day crushed by the gravity of their problems. The king's training is to increase the time under tension. The exercise is this. When reality hits you, when you receive the bad news, when you see the zero balance, that is your gym. In that exact moment, gravity is maximum. The desire to collapse into fear is immense. Your job is to sustain the seal, maintain the internal posture of I am rich or I am healthy, while looking at the contrary evidence. Feel the burn. Feel the psychic tension. It is painful. Your mind wants to scream. Hold it. Sustain the vision for 1 more minute, 5 more minutes. Do not allow yourself to react. Do not allow yourself to complain. That pain you feel is not suffering. It is growth. It is your will hardening. Every second you manage to maintain your gold identity in the face of lead reality without deforming, you are accumulating massive pressure in the universe. That accumulated tension is what finally breaks the resistance of matter and forces change. Here we must introduce a vital subtlety. We have spoken of tension, firmness, and the guillotine, but if you apply the will with physical rigidity, you will create blockage. The king's hand must be firm, not tense. Imagine a master swordsman. Their grip on the sword is firm, unmoving, but their wrists are fluid. If they gripped the sword with rigid tension, they would be slow and clumsy. Hermetic will is a relaxed tension. It is a fixed intention in a loose body. The novice's mistake is clenching the jaw and frowning to manifest. That is fear disguised as effort. The king holds the seal with absolute calm. Their mind is a block of granite, unmoving in its purpose, but their body is water, relaxed and receptive. This combination, steel mind, water body, is the formula for omnipotence. It allows energy to flow through you, relaxed body, while directing it with laser precision, fixed mind. Finally, will is nourished by silence. We already discussed this in Chapter 2, the furnace, but here it applies to the hand. Talking weakens the hand. Every time you share your plans, every time you complain, every time you seek unnecessary advice, you are opening your fingers. You are dropping the seal. The energy you should use to sustain the vision escapes through your mouth. The king practices strategic silence. They guard their intentions in a vault. No one knows their next move. No one knows which seal they are applying. This containment creates an atmospheric pressure around the king. People sense that there is something about them, a density, a power they cannot name. That power is undiluted will. It is the complete force of a consciousness that has no leaks. When such a hand touches reality, reality obeys instantly, because it feels the total mass of the being behind the touch. There will be a moment in your training when everything seems to fail. You have applied the seal. You have sustained the vision. You have cleaned the ring. And yet, the wax seems harder than ever. Problems multiply. Chaos erupts. It is the dark night of the soul. It is the final test of the will. The universe is asking, are you serious? Are you really the king, or are you a child playing with the crown? If you withdraw your hand now, everything is lost. If in the midst of total darkness, without any evidence of light, without any applause, without any guarantee, you still hold the seal. If you say, even if the world collapses, I will not move my hand. My identity is the law. Then and only then the wax breaks. The resistance collapses. Reality inverts in an instant. Because you have proven that your will is more real than the world. You have proven you are worthy of the ring. Chapter 8. The Fire Ritual, Softening Reality. To understand why you need this ritual, you must understand what you are trying to melt. You are not melting objects. You are melting resistance. During the day, your brain operates in beta waves. This is the state of survival, logic, and separation. In beta, your senses are focused outward. You see the separation between you and money. You feel the distance between you and health. You perceive time as a barrier. In this state, the wax is frozen. Your critical mind acts as a guard that says, "This is real, this cannot be changed." Any attempt to affirm or visualize in the beta state is like trying to write on water with a hammer. It is useless. The resistance of your own logic neutralizes the power. The fire ritual has a single objective: to turn off the solid state. You must disconnect the physical senses. You must silence the logic. You must withdraw your attention from the external world until the external world ceases to exist for you. When the world disappears, resistance disappears. The wax becomes virgin again. The magma state, the threshold of power, alpha, theta. What we seek is to induce the magma state. Technically, this is descending to alpha brainwaves, deep relaxation, and theta, the edge of sleep. The ancients called it the silence of the senses. Neville Goddard called it the state akin to sleep. We call it the furnace. In this state, 3 physical phenomena occur that make magic possible. The dissolution of the ego. Your sense of small self, your name, your history, your problems melts. You become pure, formless consciousness. Temporal plasticity. Time ceases to be linear. The past and the future merge into an eternal now. This allows the seal, your future desire, to be imprinted onto the present. Extreme malleability. Your subconscious mind, being unguarded by logic, opens completely. It accepts any image you give it as a real fact. The wax is liquid. The fire ritual is not meditation to relax. It is a tactical operation to soften the armor of reality enough to insert a new command. Before lighting the fire, you must close the doors of the furnace. If there are drafts, distractions, the temperature will never rise high enough. The king enters their private chamber. 1. Physical silence sealing the cracks. You cannot perform this ritual with the television on or the phone vibrating. Those are cold winds from the beta world. You need absolute sensory isolation, darkness or closed eyes. Silence or white noise, monotonous music. You must tell your body, for the next 20 minutes the external world is dead to us. To radical immobility, stopping the cooling. Physical movement disperses heat. Every time you move, scratch or adjust, your brain returns to beta to process the sensation. You cool down. The fundamental requirement of the fire ritual is cadaverous immobility. You must stay so still that you lose the notion of where your hands and legs are. When the body stops sending signals to the brain, the energy normally used to maintain posture is released. That energy becomes mental fuel. Physical immobility is the accelerator of psychic fire. Once isolated and immobile, you need to activate the heat. Your tool is the bellows, rhythmic breathing. Most people breathe to survive. The king breathes to transmute. Shallow, chaotic breathing keeps the brain alert, cold. Deep, slow, rhythmic breathing sends a signal to the parasympathetic nervous system. It is safe to let go. It is safe to melt. The protocol is to use a circular breath without pauses, imagining that with each inhalation you are absorbing energy, oxygen, prana, and with each exhalation you are expelling rigidity, tension, logic. Visualize your breath as a warm wind blowing over the wax of your mind. With each cycle, the wax softens, thoughts slow down, the edges of reality become blurred. You are raising the temperature. You are entering the magma. Now we move from theory to execution. This is not a meditation exercise to find peace. It is a tactical operation to turn off the world. You are going to voluntarily induce a state of temporary sensory death. You are going to withdraw your energy from the physical senses to pour it completely into the inner furnace. The ignition sequence consists of 4 critical phases: disconnection, descent, melting point, and magma stabilization. Phase 1, disconnection, the corpse protocol. For the mind to be freed, the body must be neutralized. As long as your brain receives signals from your muscles, tension, movement, touch, it will keep the map of your physical body active. And if the body map is active, you are anchored in solid reality. Your goal is to reach a point where you don't feel the body. You must become incorporeal, the posture of non-interference. Lie down or sit in a posture where gravity is not a problem. The spine should be straight to allow electrical flow, but the muscles must be completely deactivated. Close your eyes. This is the first seal. By cutting off visual stimulus, you reduce brain processing by 30%. Now apply the corpse protocol. It is not a gentle, progressive relaxation. It is a systematic shutdown order. Direct your attention to your feet. Do not try to relax them. Give the mental command, cut power. Imagine someone disconnecting the cable running to your feet. Feel them become heavy, inert, as if made of lead or stone. They are no longer yours. They are inert matter. Move up to the calves, cut power. Move up to the thighs, cut power. Move up to the hips, abdomen, hands, arms. With each command, feel life retreating toward the center, leaving the physical shell empty and heavy. The critical point is the face, the jaw, the eyes, and the tongue. These are the main switches for internal dialogue. If your tongue is tense, you are subvocalizing thoughts. Order the tongue to float in the mouth. Order the eyes to fall back into their sockets. Order the jaw to drop. When the face shuts down, the logical guard loses its connection to the world. Maintain this immobility no matter what happens. Your body will try to sabotage you. You will feel a sudden itch. You will feel the need to adjust. Do not move. That itch is the ego trying to check if you are still there. It's a connection test. If you scratch, you confirm you're in the body and the wax hardens again. If you ignore the itch, the brain concludes the body is asleep, and it cuts the sensory signal. At that moment, you will feel numbness, a vibration, or a sensation of expansion. You have achieved disconnection. Phase 2, the descent, the smoke staircase. The body is shut down, but the mind is still spinning. Now you must slow the brain frequency. You must descend from beta, 1430 Hz, to alpha, 813 Hz, and finally to theta, 47 Hz. For this, we use the technology of kinesthetic visualization. The brain cannot resist the sensation of falling. The smoke staircase technique. Imagine you are standing on the edge of a spiral staircase made of smoke or mist, descending into a warm, safe darkness. Do not just see it, feel it. Begin to descend. Count backward from 20 to 0. But the key is not the number, it is the movement. With each number, physically feel the sensation of descending in your stomach, like an elevator going down fast. What do you see descending? 19, deeper. 18, the light above fades away. As you descend, synchronize the descent with your exhalation. Each time you release the air, you sink one step deeper into the darkness. With each step, feel the atmosphere become denser, warmer, quieter. You are entering the furnace chamber. The thoughts of the day, the shopping list, work, remain above on the surface. Down here, only the rhythm of your descent exists. If you lose count, it doesn't matter. Keep going down. The goal is to induce slight spatial disorientation. When you lose the notion of up and down, you are entering fluidity. The rigid structure of space-time is melting. Phase 3, the melting point, the state diagnosis. How do you know you have arrived? How do you know the wax is liquid and ready for the seal? You cannot guess. There are specific symptoms. You must learn to recognize the melting point. When you reach the conscious theta state, strange phenomena occur that would frighten a novice, but which the king recognizes as signals of success. Loss of bodily boundaries. You stop feeling where your hands end and the air begins. You may feel your hands are gigantic or tiny. You may feel you are floating above the bed or have sunk through it. This means the 3D model of your body and the brain has dissolved. Physical reality is no longer solid. Hypnagogic vision. You begin to see flashes of light, colors, faces, or brief landscapes that appear and disappear behind your eyelids. You are not creating them. They are emerging from the subconscious. It is the primordial soup of creation bubbling. Do not be distracted by them. Observe them with indifference. They are just vapors of the melted material. Divine apathy. This is the most important indicator. You feel a deep peace and total indifference to your problems in the real world. The debt, the illness, or the loneliness that distressed you 10 minutes ago now seem distant, unreal, like a dream you had yesterday. This lack of worry is proof that you have disconnected the ego. Fear only exists in cold wax. In liquid magma, there is no fear, only potential. When you feel this heavy peace, this dark buoyancy, and this serene indifference, you are there. You have liquefied reality. The solid world is gone. You are floating in the womb of creation. The wax is virgin again. Phase 4, stabilization, walking on the razor's edge. Here you face the greatest danger of the ritual. The magma state is unstable. It is a razor's edge between two abysses. Abyss 1. Unconscious sleep. If you relax too much, you will fall into deep sleep, delta. You will lose consciousness, lose the ring, and wake up tomorrow without having made the imprint. Abyss 2. Abrupt awakening. If you get too excited about having achieved the state, or if you try to think with logic, you will wake up suddenly. You will climb to beta. The wax will freeze instantly. The art of the king is to maintain balance at the threshold. You must keep the body asleep, but the mind awake. How is this done? Through the anchor of passive attention. Do not focus on complex thoughts. Focus on a simple sensory perception within the trance. Listen to the hum of silence in your ears. Look at the darkness in front of your eyes. Maintain a small pilot light of awareness on. Tell yourself, I am awake, I am in the magma, I am ready. This capacity to float on the threshold without falling is what yogis call yoga nidra, and what mages call magical trance. It is the state of omnipotence. In this state, a single thought has the weight of a mountain. A single image has the reality of a universe. So because there is no resistance, there is no logic to contradict, there is no but. What you put here is, you must know that the first few times your mind will resist the heat. The ego hates this state because it feels like it is dying, and it is right. At the melting point, your personality, your history, your traumas, your name, dissolves. You will feel a sudden urge to move, to open your eyes, to think about something trivial. It is the ego trying to cool the wax to recover its solid form. Do not fight. Recognize the resistance for what it is, the crunching of ice before it breaks. Tell your ego, it is safe, we are safe, we are just changing form. And return to the breath, return to the descent. Cross the barrier of fear of dissolution. On the other side of the fear of ceasing to be you is the power to be whatever you want. Preparation for the strike. You are now in the perfect state. The body is a corpse. The mind is a luminous fog. Reality is a dark, golden liquid surrounding you. There is no time. There is no space. There is only here and now. You hold the liquid wax in your metaphysical hands. It is the moment you have been preparing for. It is time to take the ring you forged in part 2. It is time to take your gold identity, your fulfilled desire, your I am, and stamp it with a decisive movement onto this virgin substance. But beware. In this state, every thought is creative. If you doubt now, you will imprint doubt. If you are afraid now, you will imprint fear. The strike must be clean, it must be fast, it must be certain. You cannot waver. Chapter 9, The Seals Strike, the Instant Imprint. You must reprogram your understanding of mental effort. In the physical world, work is measured by time. I worked 8 hours. In the quantum world, the world of liquid wax, work is measured by intensity and clarity. Imagine sealing a real document. You don't place the ring on the wax and leave it gently for 10 hours. If you do that, the wax sticks to the ring, gets dirty, and the image is blurred upon withdrawal. Sealing is a quick and firm act. You lower your hand, bang, you press with your full weight and you withdraw. The image is instantly engraved. In your mind, the process is identical. You do not need to visualize your desire for an hour. That only invites the logical mind to enter and argue. You need an instant imprint. You need to condense all your desire, all your emotion, and all your identity into a holographic image of a few seconds, and stamp it against the subconscious with a violence of certainty so great that the structure of the universe trembles. Before striking, you must have the seal ready. You cannot improvise the design at the moment of impact. The seal is a scene, but it is not a long movie. It is a snapshot or a short loop. For the subconscious to accept the seal, the scene must comply with the geometry of reality. First person, the king's vision. Never view yourself from outside, that is dissociation. You must see through your own eyes, you must see your own hands in the scene. The ending, the inverse design. Never seal the process. Do not seal how you get the money. Seal the ending. Seal the moment after the desire has been fulfilled. Sensory density, the relief. The seal must have texture. The logical mind thinks in concepts, the deep mind thinks in sensations. Seal design examples. For wealth, your seal is not seeing money. Your seal is a 5-second scene where you shake someone's hand and hear, "Congratulations on the contract." You feel the firm grip and the texture of the skin. You feel the relief in your chest. For health, your seal is feeling the wind on your face as you run, or feeling the strength in your legs as you climb a staircase. For love, your seal is feeling the weight of a wedding ring on your finger as you touch a surface. This short scene is your ring. You must have it prepared, polished, and ready before entering the trance. You are now in the magma state, Chapter 8. The wax is ready. You have your scene, the ring. How do you strike? The strike is the explosive fusion of image and emotion. 1. Invoke the image. In the darkness of your mind, bring the scene. Look at it. 2. Load the weight. Now invoke the dignity, Chapter 5, and the passion, Chapter 2. Feel the emotion of "it is mine." Feel the massive gratitude. Feel the reality of the fact. 3. The impact. At the moment of maximum emotion, fuse your consciousness with the image. Become the scene. Do not look at it. Enter it. Feel the handshake really. Hear the voice really. Make that imagined moment more real than the bed you are lying on. In that instant of fusion, you have delivered the strike. You have imprinted the information of the I am rich directly onto the plastic substance of the universe. There is no distance. There is no time. In that second of impact, physical reality and mental reality are one thing. Many fail because they repeat the scene mechanically, like a robot, hoping that repetition will do the work. Repetition without intensity is like hitting cold wax with a rubber ring. It leaves no mark. It is better to make one perfect imprint, charged with explosive feeling and diamond clarity, than 100 vague imprints. The king looks for the click. There is a moment during the strike when you feel a change. You feel a kind of electric discharge, an involuntary deep sigh, a feeling that something has left you. It is the sensation that the energy has passed from being yours, a desire, to being the universe's effect. That is the sound of the seal marking the wax. Once you feel the click, the work is done. You do not need to keep striking. If you keep striking wax that already has the mark, you only deform it. The wax has the mark. The information is inside. Now you face the moment of greatest technical risk in the entire operation. The seal is set, but the wax is still hot. It is still soft. If you withdraw your hand, your attention, incorrectly, if you do it with fear, doubt, or sticky attachment, you will drag the wax with you. You will deform the sharp edges of the image you just created. You will turn a masterpiece into an unrecognizable stain. The novice strikes and lingers, doubting, pushing, checking. The king strikes and withdraws with surgical cleanliness. The 9th law continues. The imprint requires pressure, but the fixation requires detachment. Once the strike is delivered, the hand must withdraw so the wax can cool into its new form. We enter the protocol of the final seal and withdrawal. The physics of adherence, the danger of attachment. Let's analyze the physical mechanics of a wax seal. If the ring metal is too hot, or if it is withdrawn with trembling, the wax sticks to the metal. Upon lifting the ring, the wax stretches, creating sticky threads that break the design. In metaphysics, that glue is attachment to the outcome and lust for the result. When you have just visualized your desire with high intensity, your ego wants to stay there. It wants to keep pushing to make sure it works. Or worse, it wants to run out into the physical world to see if the money or health has already appeared. This post-ritual anxiety is the adherence. If you end your power session and your first thought is, "Did it work?" you have just stuck your finger in the soft wax. You have erased the imprint. The question, "Did it work?" implies you are not sure, and the wax responds to certainty, not hope. If you doubt after the strike, you are sending an immediate counterorder. Cancel imprint. For the image to be engraved, the withdrawal must be dry, fast, and clean. You must transition from total passion during the strike to total indifference after the strike. This indifference is not a lack of interest. It is the tranquility of possession. You don't worry about where your house keys are when you already have them in your pocket. The clean withdrawal is the act of putting the keys in your pocket and forgetting about them. Protocol 1. The energy cut, shutting down the reactor. How is this instant indifference achieved after a moment of such emotional intensity? You need a psychological firewall. You cannot leave the theta state, magma, dragging the energy of desire. You must cut the flow. The "it is done" technique. Just after feeling the click of the imprint, when you feel the energy has left you, you must pronounce the closing sentence. It can be a biblical word like amen or a command phrase like it is done or simply thank you. But you must not say it as a plea. You must say it like a notary closing a record book. The entry has been registered. I close the book. By saying thank you, you shift your vibration from active creator, fire, to passive receiver, earth. Gratitude is the cooling seal. The moment you give thanks, you tell your subconscious, the transaction is complete. I am no longer asking, now I'm receiving. The focus shift. Immediately after the thank you, you must kill the image. Let the scene of your desire dissolve into the darkness. Do not try to hold it. Let it go. If you hold it, you keep it in the conscious mind. And you need it to sink into the subconscious mind. For the seed to germinate, you must release it so it falls into the crack in the dark earth. If you keep it in your hand, conscious, it will never grow. Release the image. Trust the darkness. Protocol 2. Exiting the trance, the return to the surface. Now you must navigate the return from the magma state, theta, to physical reality, beta, or slide into sleep, delta. The way you exit determines whether the wax cools correctly. Option A, the bridge to sleep, the royal way. If you are doing this at night, the ideal time, your goal is not to reawaken the logical guard. After releasing the image and saying, thank you, simply turn your body. Change physical position. Shift from the corpse posture, face up, to your favorite sleeping position. This physical movement is a signal to the body. The ritual is over, now we sleep. Let your mind wander toward nothingness. Do not think about the desire, think about the darkness, the silence, the rest. If you fall asleep in that empty peace, the seal hardens perfectly during the night. Option B, the return to wakefulness, the warrior's way. If you do this during the day, you must return to beta without shattering the crystal of certainty. Progressive count. Count from 1 to 5. 1, I feel my body. 2, I move my fingers. 3, I breathe deeply. 4, clear eyes. 5, awake. Anchoring action. Upon opening your eyes, do not linger thinking about what you just did. Get up and do something physical and trivial immediately. Drink water, wash the dishes, walk. This triviality is vital. By occupying yourself with something mundane, you cut the cable of obsession. You allow the subconscious to do its work in the shadows while you occupy your conscious mind on the surface. I have planted the seed. Now I go to water the plants. That disconnection is faith in action. The greatest danger occurs in the minutes and hours following the ritual. The ego, which has been asleep or suppressed, wakes up and says, "What did we just do? Did it work? Did you feel it enough?" It begins to perform an intellectual autopsy. It tries to dig up the seal to analyze it. You must strictly prohibit this. If you find yourself asking, "Did I do it right?" stop. Tell yourself, it is not to be discussed, it has been commanded. Apply the royal veto. Every time you analyze your magic, you take away its mystery and potency. Magic requires shadow. The king does not discuss their decrees with servants. The decree is issued and forgotten, knowing it will be fulfilled. If you have delivered the strike correctly and withdrawn cleanly, you will enter a very specific psychological state. The ancients called it the Sabbath. It is not a day of the week, it is a state of consciousness. It is the state of mental rest that follows successful creation. How does the Sabbath feel? It feels like a strange emptiness. Before the ritual, you had burning desire. You had anxiety, you wanted something. After the ritual, if the seal has marked, you no longer have the desire. You feel like you no longer care so much. You might think, have I lost my motivation? No, you have lost the lack. You no longer desire the water because you just drank. That feeling of neutrality, of it is no longer urgent, of empty peace, is the definitive proof that the imprint has been successful. Psychic reality has been satisfied. The novice is scared by this lack of desire and tries to reignite the anxiety. The master relaxes into the Sabbath. They know that peace is the signal that the pregnancy has begun. Now all that remains is to wait the time of gestation with confidence. The paradox of repetition. When to strike again? A common technical question. Should I do the ritual only once or every night? The answer depends on satisfaction. If you strike the hammer and the nail goes all the way in, you feel the total click, the explosion of reality, the immediate Sabbath. Do not repeat it. Hitting a nail that is already in only damages the wood. If you feel it is done, do not do it again. Simply live in gratitude. But if you strike and feel the nail twisted, or that it didn't go in completely, your mind wandered, you didn't feel the reality, you woke up with doubts, then repeat. Return to the furnace the next night. Heat the wax again, strike again. Repeat until you feel the click. Repeat until the satisfaction is such that you no longer want to repeat. Repetition is not to convince the universe, it is to convince you. The universe accepts the order the first time you totally accept it. The secret of serene expectation. Once you have withdrawn and entered the Sabbath, your daily attitude must change. You are no longer the seeker, you are the waiter. But you do not wait with anxiety, like one waiting for a delayed train. You wait with serene expectation, like one waiting for an Amazon package that you know has already been shipped. You know it is on its way. You don't have to shout at the mail carrier. Your daily life becomes a game of watching for clues. You start to see how reality bends. Small coincidences, changes in people's moods, unexpected opportunities. The king observes these signs and smiles faintly. They are not surprised. Ah, there it is. The wax is cooling into the new shape. Everything is proceeding according to plan. This attitude of tranquil supremacy is the most magnetic force that exists. It accelerates the cooling. It draws reality toward you with dizzying speed. Because there is no resistance, there is no I want, there is only I am. You have completed the act of imprinting. You have learned to enter the magma. You have learned to deliver the seal's strike. And you have learned to withdraw the hand so as not to deform the work. The cycle of creation is complete. You understood the wax, substance. You lit the fire, emotion. You respected the time, gestation. You forged the identity, ring. You polished your worth, gold. You cleaned the beliefs, relief. You sustained the will, hand. You softened reality, fire, ritual. You stamped the desire, seal, strike. There is nothing left to do on the internal plane. The work is finished, consummatum est, but you are still here in the body, in the world. How does a king live after having sealed the decree? How do you walk through life knowing that you carry the power to bend reality in your mind? Your life can no longer be the same. Your identity has irreversibly changed. Chapter 10. Withdrawing the hand, the art of detachment. To understand detachment, do not think in moral or spiritual terms. I have to be good and let go. Think in mechanics. Imagine pressing a seal onto soft wax. If you withdraw your hand with a clean, dry, quick motion, the seal is perfect. But if your hand is sticky, if there is sweat, if there is hesitation, if you stick to it, when you lift your hand, the wax lifts with you. It stretches. It breaks. In forbidden metaphysics, that stickiness is need. Need is a vibration of active lack. I want it means I don't have it. I need it means I cannot survive without it. As long as you maintain the vibration of, I need this to happen, you are shouting to the universe, it hasn't happened yet. You are confirming the absence. And the universe, which is a faithful mirror, chapter 4, returns more absence. It returns more waiting. Detachment is not wanting the goal. The king wants their kingdom. Detachment is the absence of desperation. It is the certainty so absolute that the seal has marked that you no longer feel the need to keep pushing. Withdrawing the hand is the physical and mental act of saying, the order has been received. My job of doing is over. Now it is the universe's turn. Here we encounter one of the most paradoxical laws of the mind, described by great masters of psychology and occultism, the law of inverted effort. This law states, when imagination and willpower are in conflict, imagination always wins, and if you strive too hard to force an outcome, you will get the opposite. It is like quicksand. The more you fight, the more you sink. It is like trying to sleep. The more you strive to sleep, the more awake you are. It is like trying to remember a name. The more you search your memory, the more it hides. Only when you say, I'll remember it later, and release the effort does the name appear. Manifestation follows this same physics. If you strive to be rich, you are vibrating in the difficulty of wealth. You are affirming that wealth is heavy, difficult, and distant, and reality will give you difficulty. If you strive to heal, you are validating the reality of the illness. Withdrawing the hand is stopping the struggle in the quicksand. It is the moment you stop trying to make it happen and allow it to happen. It is shifting from active masculine mode, the strike, to passive feminine mode, gestation. If you don't make this shift, you burn the engine. The quantum Zeno effect, the vigilant observer who freezes. Quantum physics has a name for the error of constantly checking, the Zeno effect. This effect demonstrates that an unstable system, like an atom about to change state or your reality about to manifest, cannot change while under continuous observation. If you watch the pot, the water never boils. If you open the oven every 2 minutes to see if the bread has risen, the bread falls. Your obsession with the outcome, your constant vigilance of has it arrived yet? Where is my money? Do I feel better? Acts as a freezing ray. Your anxiety freezes the wax in its current state. You prevent energy from flowing into the new form. Withdrawing the hand means literally stopping looking. It means having the iron discipline to ignore the external reality during the period of gestation. It means knowing that the bread is baking and that your job is to keep the oven door closed. Blind trust is not ignorance. It is the technical protection necessary for the chemistry of transformation to occur in the dark, the paradox of possession. You only have what you can release. We arrive at the philosophical core of the king. A beggar clings to a coin because they believe it is the only one they will ever have. Their clinging is the proof of their poverty. A king can release a coin, give it away, or lose it, because they know that they are the source of the wealth. Their detachment is the proof of their power. In the world of energy, you only possess that which you are not attached to. If you are emotionally attached to a specific outcome, if she doesn't love me, I'll die, and if I don't get this job, I'm finished. You are not the owner of that desire. You are its slave. And the universe does not give power to slaves. The energy of slavery, dependence, repels manifestation. For the seal to work, you must reach a point of emotional sovereignty. You must be able to say, I desire this. I have commanded it. But if it didn't arrive tomorrow, I would still be a king. My identity, my gold, does not depend on this external manifestation. The moment you feel that independence, the moment you don't care if it arrives or not because you are already complete, the door bursts open. Reality, feeling no resistance or sticky need, rushes towards you. This is the great cosmic joke. You get what you want the moment you stop needing it to be happy. We know that need is a glue that ruins the imprint, and that constant vigilance is a freezing ray that stops the crystallization process. The king strikes and withdraws the hand. But what does the hand do once it has withdrawn? What does the king's mind do during the hours, days, or weeks that the wax takes to cool and solidify into the new reality? If you sit idly by watching the seal, anxiety will eat you alive. The ego, deprived of its function to fight, will panic and force you to stick your finger in. The void is unbearable for the untrained mind. The secret of operative detachment is not passive inaction. It is the strategic redirection of attention. You must give your mind something else to do. You must occupy the space of waiting with the space of being. We enter the empty hand protocol. Phase 1. The occupation of the void, the displacement principle. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you withdraw your attention from your problem to let the seal work, a void is created in your mind. If you don't deliberately fill that void, the old habit of fear will rush in to fill it again. You cannot simply not think about your desire. You must think about something else. The king uses the displacement principle. Once the ritual is over, once you have said it is done, you must immediately involve yourself in an activity that requires your complete attention in the present moment. But that is irrelevant to your desire. The technique of sacred triviality. It may seem absurd, but one of the most potent techniques of mental magic is washing dishes, playing a video game, tending the garden, or reading a complex novel right after a great ritual. Why? Because these activities anchor your conscious mind in the physical now, preventing it from returning to excavate the subconscious. You give the guard dog, your intellect, a bone to chew on, the trivial task, so it leaves the engineer, your subconscious, alone while it works. If you sit on the sofa waiting, you vibrate in waiting. If you concentrate fully on painting a wall, you vibrate in presence. And presence is neutral. Neutrality allows the seed to germinate without interference. The master knows that the most important moment after creation is temporary forgetting. Forgetting is the fertilizer. You have to lose sight of the seed for the earth to embrace it. Phase 2, the bridge of incidence, non-interpretation. While you keep your hands busy, reality will begin to move. The wax starts to flow. But here is a trap. The wax rarely flows in a straight line toward your desire. It often flows through what Neville Goddard called a bridge of incidence. It is a chain of events that will lead you to your goal, but which, seen from the present, may seem chaotic, illogical, or even negative. For you to get the job of your dreams, perhaps you must first be fired from your current one. For you to find the love of your life, perhaps your current relationship must break up dramatically. For you to heal, perhaps you must first go through a healing crisis where symptoms worsen. The novice, seeing these events, shouts, "Something went wrong, the seal failed," and sticks their hand in to fix it, stopping the process. The king understands fluid dynamics. They know that for the water to reach the sea, sometimes it has to turn left, sometimes fall down a waterfall, sometimes stagnate. The detachment protocol demands the suspension of judgment. When something unexpected happens during the interval, your command is, do not label. Do not call it bad. Do not call it failure. Do not call it setback. Look at it coldly and say, this is part of the bridge. The wax is moving. The path is opening, even if it looks like a landslide. I do not interfere. I trust the gravity of the process. This capacity to walk through apparent chaos without trying to control it is the supreme proof that you have withdrawn your hand. If you try to save the situation, you prove you do not trust the seal. If you let the old tower fall, you prove you know that the new palace is coming behind it. Phase 3, the I already have it identity, normalization. Detachment is not just not doing, it is an internal attitude. How does someone who already has what you desire behave? Let's analyze it. If you already had the $1 million, would you spend all day thinking about money, doing money rituals, and checking your account with anxiety? No. You would probably be thinking about what to eat, or an art project, or where to go on vacation. Money would be a background subject, a given fact, not a foreground obsession. Obsession is the signature of lack. Indifference or normality is the signature of possession. To accelerate the hardening of the wax, you must practice normalization. You must take your desire down from the pedestal. As long as you treat your desire as a golden idol, as something enormous and miraculous and distant, your vibration says, it is too big for me. You must look your desire in the eyes and tell it, you are normal, you are natural, you are the logical consequence of who I am. The king is not surprised by their crown. It is theirs. Your daily practice during the interval is to reduce the psychological weight of the desire. By removing the weight, you remove the resistance, and reality flows without friction. Phase 4, preventive gratitude, the maintenance seal. Although we have said you must forget and release, there will be moments when fear manages to break your defenses. You will wake up at 3 a.m. with a doubt attack. What if it doesn't happen? In that moment, you cannot use distraction, phase 1. You must use a sharper tool. You must use preventive gratitude. Gratitude is the only emotion that is incompatible with doubt. If you doubt, it is because you believe you don't have it. If you give thanks, you are affirming you have it. When fear attacks, do not fight it. Do not argue. Simply change the channel to thank you because it is done. Thank you because it has been resolved in the best way. Thank you because I don't have to worry. Even if you don't see the solution, even if you feel terrified, force the gratitude. This act is like pouring cold water over the fire of fear. Gratitude reaffirms the seal. It reminds your subconscious, the contract is still valid. I have not cancelled it. Phase 5, the abandonment of Plan B, burning the ships. The highest level of withdrawing the hand is eliminating the safety net. If you have set the seal of I am going to be a successful artist, but you keep the search for mediocre employment tab open in your browser, you have not withdrawn your hand. You have one finger placed in the wax of mediocrity. That Plan B is an energy leak. It tells the universe, actually, I don't believe Plan A will work. The king burns the ships. This does not mean being reckless, it means total vibrational commitment. It means that in your mind, there is no turning back. I am going to heal or I'm going to die trying. But I will not accept illness as an identity. I am going to prosper, period. I do not accept poverty as an option. When you eliminate the option to retreat, energy only has one possible direction. Forward. The pressure increases. And as we saw in Chapter 2, pressure is what fuses reality. Having nowhere to fall, you are forced to fly. The spectator syndrome, enjoying the show. Once you have mastered these phases, you reach the final state of detachment, the amused spectator. You start viewing your life not as a struggle for survival, but as a movie that you yourself wrote, but whose ending you already know, because you set the seal. You know the ending is victory. Therefore, when a dragon appears in the middle of the movie, or the hero falls into a pit, you are not scared. You eat popcorn, you smile, you say, "Wow, what an interesting plot twist. I wonder how the hero will get out of this to reach the final victory." You have curiosity, not fear. You trust the screenwriter, your higher self, and the director, your subconscious. You know that the suspense is only part of the entertainment before the inevitable resolution. When you can look at your current problems with that attitude of detached curiosity, the battle is over. You have won. Because that vibration of play is the highest vibration of creation. It is the vibration of the gods. Gods do not worry, they play. And then, when you least expect it, it happens. It usually occurs when you are distracted, when you have stopped looking, when you are busy living your life, enjoying the moment, having released the need. The wax has cooled, reality has hardened, and there before you, solid, tangible, undeniable, is the object of your desire. It does not arrive with fanfare. It arrives naturally. It arrives as if it were always destined to be. In fact, it often feels so natural that you almost forget it was a miracle. You will say, of course, it made sense that it happened. That naturalness is the mark of a perfect imprint. The seal has become the wax. The identity has become the reality. You began this journey as a prisoner of matter, believing the world was a labyrinth of unmoving stone walls. You lived under the tyranny of facts, striking your hands against cold reality, begging for a change that never came. But now you possess the vision of the kings. You have discovered the secret the elites guarded for millennia. Reality is not stone, it is wax. It is an infinitely obedient, passive, and malleable substance, waiting only for the correct temperature to change form. In Part 1, you lit the fire. You understood that emotion is not a weakness, but the necessary thermodynamic heat to liquefy circumstances, and you learned to respect the law of time, understanding that waiting is not a void, but the sacred process of cooling and crystallization. In Part 2, you entered the forge. You stopped seeking power externally and began carving it internally. You created the sealing ring through inverse engraving, eliminating what was superfluous to make space for what you desired. You transmuted your lead identity into the gold of dignity and cleaned the relief with the acid of truth. And in Part 3, you executed the act of power. You learned to soften the world in the void workshop, to deliver the seal's strike with explosive intensity, and the most difficult of all, you mastered the supreme art of withdrawing the hand, trusting the chemistry of the universe to do the rest. You are no longer a victim of others' impressions. Your life is no longer an accident. It is your coat of arms. Every event, every circumstance, every object around you now bears your mark. But with the ring comes the final responsibility. The wax never stops being wax. It is always listening. It is always waiting. If you fall asleep, if you let your fire go out or your ring get dirty, reality will revert to the shape of collective fear. The king never takes off the ring. Your consciousness is the seal and your life is the wax. There is no rest in sovereignty. Your question every morning is no longer, what is going to happen to me today, but what form of greatness do I choose to stamp today upon the face of the abyss? If this manual has returned your crown and reminded you of your power, we invite you to seal this pact. Subscribe to our channel, Path of Knowledge, to receive more keys to the mental kingdom. Like this video as your first act of authority over the algorithm. Share this forbidden knowledge with those who are ready to awaken. Thank you for your time, for your discipline in the forge, and for the brave decision to leave your own mark on the world.